course, I start coughing as soon as it starts. I meant to have this coffee drunk by now. Hello, everyone. Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer for recorder videos, and at tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to Patron D&D, where I choke on my evening coffee, where we get together to talk about our Dungeons & Dragons campaign via Discord and Roll20. These sessions are entirely supported by patrons of patreon.com/roguewatson. Patrons also get exclusive access to private videos, custom 5e content, participate in monthly DM roundtables, and these patron D&D games. These games are not live streamed but are recorded for your viewing pleasure. You can watch more D&D sessions, reviews, and crafting streams on the channel. Read weekly recaps at roguewatson.com and listen to all of these shows with the Rogue Watson podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts. You can join our official Discord server with invite link in the description below. Our music is by Kevin MacLeod, and our amazing original character art was done by Jimmy McClure. Welcome to the epilogue and recap session of our Empire of the Ghouls campaign, which was designed by Richard Green and published by Kobold Press. I am joined by players who are not technically playing characters right now. Brandon.
Hey there.
Christopher.
How's it going?
Dory.
Hello.
Genocider.
Hello.
John.
Hi there.
Morgan.
Hello.
And Stan. And if you would do your same creepy greetings if I wasn't doing your actual character name.
Greetings.
There you go. I can't start unless you say that.
Tradition must be upheld.
Yeah, it must. So this is going to be a different episode because we're just going to talk about a campaign which began in August of 2022 and ran until February 2024. I've got a lot of fun trivia that I can share with everybody. Before we start going over the campaign, though, I do want to give you all some prompts so that you can be thinking about this and give your answers by the end of it. So I do want to know, not now, but later, what everyone's favorite chapter and or area was, because usually chapters are by region. What was everyone's favorite magic item or weapon or magical thing? Who was your favorite NPC or character we met along the way, whether it was a one-off or a recurring, which we didn't have a chance to use a whole lot of recurring allies. And then if anybody has a single specific favorite moment in the campaign, what was your favorite of that one? So I'm giving you these prompts now, so you have a chance to think about it while we go over the campaign. And what we're looking at right now is the original overland map, which we haven't seen in the last two chapters of Midgard. And this is a map that actually, I think, does not come with the campaign. I think I had to pull this off of the Kobold Press website and copy and paste it here because we needed a map. We actually didn't, I'm getting ahead of things actually. We technically didn't even actually see this map until chapter 2 because I believe we started chapter 1 in Zobeck, which is the classic like hub, big melting pot city of this region, which was a quick, like 3-session chapter. I believe it was the quickest one. And we started off with I think it was a missing persons investigation. And you all were working for like a kobold, a tavern keeper or something, and trying to find this missing person who was eventually led you into the catacombs below the city, which is how you stumbled upon kind of a dark cult thing going on, and only had just barely has anything to do with really what the full Imperium is doing. But I think there is some like teases of events for that one. So the main map I have is probably just that final. Let's see. I don't think we used. Oh yeah, we did use this one. This is okay. Maybe I should show this one. So put everybody on the Zobeck catacombs and then turn off dynamic lighting. So I don't know if we remember this map too much, but I think this was one of our first little mini dungeon crawls as we fought our way through a bunch of kind of low-powered ghouls and fought probably one of our first little mini bosses. In fact, you can still see we have a lot of old tokens in the lower right corner there. Everybody got their glow-ups.
Is this the one where we had like the crank, and then we had to go into the other room? I don't think it was this one. I think it
don't
was-
remember
it was
that.
the statue room. It was a trap. It would fire in from the corners, if I remember correctly.
Boy, even
I just remember the catacombs. Yeah.
So this one led
Yeah.
directly to
I think that was the trap room.
Which one was this one? The Temple
Or-
of Morena.
We were chasing Mr. Cruel, right? Boris Cruel.
Yeah, I don't remember if you defeated him there.
No, he
think it
made
was
it.
the next
He escaped.
dungeon.
Okay, you chased him to the next
To-
area. Which
Mhm.
was this one.
What I
Yeah.
remember from the first map is that's where Alaric got his spider rapier. It was the first magic item.
Okay,
It's in that top right corner.
nice.
Wasn't the secret door in the map before, wasn't it the room bottom center? That we could hear something behind that wall that led us into this room,
That
I
does
think.
sound familiar, yes.
Yeah, there was a
Yep.
map between those two, I think.
Yeah, I remember you guys were...
That's where Alaric got knocked out by a pile of guts.
Yeah.
It was the first
Yeah,
first map.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the map where what was that one? There's a different map where the actual session one. What was that map? Shit, I don't remember. Where you fought those claws.
Yeah, there was a laboratory.
Yeah, laboratory. I wonder.
Or the guy that we were supposed to get his stuff from had fallen victim to his experiments.
I don't remember what that map is called.
I think that was the first time I cast Healing Word and said, "Stop sleeping. Get up. Lazy bum."
And that was, I think, Io Bear saved us all by squeezing through those little passages because I
Nice.
was cooked.
Yeah, this was
The
the
first of
the
many
big final
failed
battle
conflicts.
here.
Hmm.
This was the first time I thought Bond wasn't going to make it.
The first of many, many times.
The first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the first chapter was literally only 3 sessions, and they all took place in Zobeck. It was a bunch of like overland. In fact, I do have the map of Zobeck at least. If that rings any bells for some of you.
That temple was the first time Bond talked Alaric down from massacring everybody.
I think this map also might not be from the campaign. I think I also got this from Kobold Press somewhere.
That was where we first had to find the girl. I think I've got Rosalind Turner.
Yes.
Yeah. The blacksmith's daughter
Yep.
trying to talking with the blacksmith.
Hmm.
I offered him peace. Bond said, you don't want that kind of peace.
It felt very self-contained, I feel like, which
Mhm.
I think is kind of a strength of the way that they designed their campaign, which was kind of like the Pathfinder adventure paths, where it's like, here's individual, like each chapter kind of has its own like beginning, middle, and end, and has its own like arc and climax and stuff, but then there's this overarching storyline along the way. Some of them work better than others, and I feel like the whole campaign is almost just showing like an appetizer of the whole region, because at one point we did a lot of travel in this region, which we'll get to that in the next chapter. But this first chapter was only those 3 sessions, but I think they worked pretty well.
This is when we found out how strong Kovac was.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Kovac was already doing like heavy damage.
Well, I think Io started shifting into bear because you get that at level 2, right? So that became like hugely important too.
And this is also, we nerfed Memento Mori after this too.
Yeah, where you like stun lock people or something. All right, how about some trivia, which this one is, you can already look this one up pretty easy, so I'll just tell you the number of sessions that we had was 41 total sessions. With the average of about 3-hour sessions, that comes to about 123 total hours. I think we had a few that were maybe a little over 3 hours. And more interesting trivia, however, maybe the average number of sessions per level comes out to 3.7. sessions per level. We started the campaign at level 2, and we ended the campaign at level 12. How about this trivia? And I will ask this of all of you. How much total inspiration do we think was earned among all players by the end of the campaign?
Over the whole campaign.
You
Everybody
said we had
can-
41
If you're in roll
episodes?
20, you can type your guess in roll 20. 41 sessions. Total inspiration earned.
John and I, we agree.
And
Doing the Price is Right method.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boris is 85. Brandon is 65. Morgan 57. John 65. Y'all like the around the 60s. Ryan's. Oh, that's interesting. Christopher 6 per person. 21. Man. Genocide, and Alaric says 92. All right. Well,
he
you
did stop
all
halfway through.
you all lowballed it. Total inspiration earned amongst all characters by the end of the session was 121.
Double.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm like, come on. Which averages out to about 3 inspiration earned per session. Like, given by me, I guess, per session, not per player, obviously.
1 per hour.
Yeah. Which is a much higher ratio than what I usually do for my Friday group. So I enjoy, I reward you all more inspiration in general.
Clearly not enough still, because we thought it was half of
Clearly,
that.
isn't that funny? Everybody's like, we hardly ever got.
Does that include the last one where you're like inspiration for everybody?
It does. It does include that one, which
Okay.
yeah, that
That's a plus 8 right there.
Yeah, that upped it like ever so slightly, like because I gave out like 9 inspiration basically for that one session. Yep. So that was chapter 1. Chapter 2 was a giant, which this one, it would be useful to go back to the map, because chapter 2 was the single longest chapter, and it was a huge travel chapter, which is probably the one that I had the most, I don't know, nervous about running, because everybody, like, you know, travel in D&D is just kind of a downer in general. I mean, it kind of has to happen. That you tend to montage through stuff. There's only so many things I can do to keep it interesting, I guess. At some points, I was like putting, you know, at one point you all literally did like a mini dungeon crawl inside of one of the dwarf castles or something. It's a lot of just meeting people and talking with people, which is fine. And we can, you know, it's fun to have like even a session of that, but it feels like this one was like half this chapter, which was several sessions of traveling from, I believe, Zobeck, which is down as here, and we went all the way up the road. In fact, the marker is at the Black Fortress right now. I'm not sure why it's sitting there. Because we went all the way forward to Gristle and the Black Fortress. We met with the dwarves. We did like the whole that dwarf dungeon thing. Cariason, and Dory, I think you were asking about this. Which town that you all went to where there was like refugees and stuff? I believe that, which I'll move the marker there. That was this one. And that's where you actually met with the Krakovan royal family. Or not the family, the surviving members of the nobility, including met Archduke Avgost for the first time. So that was all still very critically important. But it was a long travel. I mean, it was this. Let's see. Yeah, from Zobeck to Gristle was one episode. Gristle and the Black Fortress was another episode. Cariason and then into the Fey Road was another session.
I remember that one.
Yep. I don't remember the map of that one. I think that's the one where you gave the cloak away.
Yeah. From then on, No more magic items.
No more
Right.
magic items for Rye.
That's how you became the real bard of this campaign.
Exactly.
Which one was Fey Road Meat? The problem is I had multi-purpose some of these. Yeah, at one point you guys went back into the Fey Road. Yeah, no, I don't think that was that one yet. And then you emerged in the Stone Galleries, which was a dungeon that you thought you'd fight like a Medusa or something in. Let's see if I can keep all of that one. Which is where the Fey Road ended up, because here you witness them trying to steal, like kidnap the Archduke for the first time. So you met with the family, and the Archduke was like, all right, escort me to Krakova, which just added, like, you had already traveled a lot. Now it's like, okay, now do all this other travel. That was right. It's cockatrices, I think, is why there's just stone guys here.
It's all
There's a
Black Forest.
basilisk too.
Yes,
you're just
there
not
was.
on the
Let me
map.
turn that dynamic lighting off. There we go.
Can you see it now?
Oh,
CT?
this was right after.
Yeah, there's a basilisk
Yeah,
down
this
there.
was right after a level up, and we all basically brought out our new toys to attack everything. I think on this map.
Level 4. We're still only level 4 right now, but yeah.
It's funny because what I remember
Yep.
was Lucian levitating.
The Archduke, I think, right?
Archduke.
To like save him.
Yeah, like to get him out of harm's way. And I was like,
Yeah.
that's amazing. I would have never thought of that.
It wasn't here, I don't think. Was it? Or this was the second time we used levitate.
Was it the second time?
Yeah, he did it on the spy on the road, and he did it
Okay.
here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was.
And this was the second. And I was going to say this is the second battle for Matthias too, because he fought we had to fight the wraiths or something on the Shadow Road.
Wait,
before
was this? Did we have Guy Manderson with us here?
Yep.
Oh, which was that? It was just
Right
his.
up here.
It was his bodyguard, right?
NPC, by the way.
This random guy. All right, yeah, I remember.
What's his name? His name is Guy.
And I think this was a fun case of like you fought your first Imperial Ghoul as kind of like a mini boss, and then by the end of the campaign, they're literally like a minion because of the way you guys all leveled up. Yeah, and then from there it was just literally more traveling. We went all the way to Jost, which was finally the next big city, which, like, so the Fey Road teleported you from here up to here, and then the Stone Galleries, then we had to just hoof it to here. So now we made it all the way to the, look at how far that is from Zobeck down there. Like, that is half a chapter.
That's crazy.
To go, like, across the continent, basically. And then when you arrive in Jost, they're like, all right, now we've got a mission to go deep into Krakova, which is when we did and I think this is around the time John joined us, I want to say, or did you join earlier than that?
So I joined when they were leaving the Black Fortress.
Oh, okay. It's a little bit
En
earlier than
route to
this.
Cryacin, I think, is when Torben came in.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so this was something I think I added, was like, all right, well, let's at least put him on a fucking boat and stop going 5 foot for a hot second, because there's a swamp right here.
That was a fun fight
through the swamps.
Yeah, and I was like doing a good, I think that's this one. Let's see if I can. So the other reason I find these a pain in the ass is because from a Roll20 DM standpoint, I have to come up with all these fucking maps. The Stone Galleries one was there. I think that was the only one that was there for this whole section. The Fey Road, like all of these road encounters, everything I had to do maps for. So it was a pain in the butt. This was the one of the swamp ones, I think.
This is when we had the flying bears.
Well, there was this swamp one and there was another swamp one.
Oh, okay.
That was on the way to
in chapter 3.
where we met more bears.
Yes. Yes, you did. Yes, that was in chapter 3 where you met the other bears and they're all
Oh,
going
okay.
towards
Yep, yep, yep.
the Holdra, I think. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, this
Um,
was the nasty boat
We kept
fight where we
throwing
lost
people
almost
off
every
the boat.
single rat.
Right?
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Wasn't
people get
Torben
thrown
like
off.
chucking people off the boat?
Yeah, fighting these cool looking swamp
Ew.
zombie guys. Then this is the opportunity where I wanted to the one extra thing I added in here, which was the blood vaults. So you guys were en route to gosh, I forget what the actual mission was. I think you were gonna go meet.
Yarisburg.
Yeah, you were gonna go meet with the. Well, I don't know if you had to go to Yarisburg. Yeah, but you're trying to meet with the shit. What are they called? The faction
It
of.
was the underground, the Krakow underground.
It was like the
to find
Valkyries,
out
but I
where
forget what their
the
freaking name was.
it's the female paladins.
Yes,
The
the female
Is that
paladins.
Spear
the shield maidens?
Spear Maidens of Hope.
Spear
That's what it
Spear
was.
maiden.
Spear Maidens of Hope. Yeah, you were trying to find them, and you did find them, and then they're the ones that told you that one of theirs was captured by at Jarlsberg. That's why to go to Jarlsberg. But before that is when I threw in the Blood Vaults. The Blood Vaults was another
What is
one of those like anthology collections that Kobold Press has put out, and it just seemed like it was very appropriate to throw in here, and I threw that in one of the cities, I believe, on the way to meet there. I don't think it's on this, or no, it's in Warsaw. I think it is on this map.
Was that Warsaw?
Yeah, it's in Warsaw. Yeah, that's right. Because if you look at, you went all the way down from Jost to Warsaw, which is where you did the Blood Vaults, and then further south to go to Jarlsberg. So the Blood Vaults is where I was able to tie it in with Alaric's storyline. Where's that fucking map?
Now, what were you saying was the catalyst for adding it in? You said you had seen like a supplement.
Yeah,
From
well,
Kobold
I had written down like what are some cool, themed modules or dungeons I can add to this adventure at certain levels. A lot of them were neat ones that took place in the Underworld, but of course we wouldn't get to the Underworld until much later in this campaign. And by the time we got there, I was like, boy, I've got plenty of content. I don't need to add anything. So this was one of the rare ones where it was like, okay, I can just add this kind of whenever. And this just seemed like a good opportunity to run it. And like the levels lined up very well.
And it was a way to break up the travel after
Yes.
travel after
Yes.
travel.
Exactly.
Right?
I needed to break up the travel very badly. All right, I am blanking out. I'm not seeing this for some reason. Vault. I have the vault entrance, which is where you guys fought the Minotaur skeleton and literally just freaking bodied this thing. I think this is the one where you guys levitated this guard creature, and I couldn't do anything because Minotaur skeleton can't do anything in the air, so it's just completely wiped out. Blood Vault. Maybe it's called something else. Midnight Temple's not it. Fleshed Outpost, Jost, Grizzly Feet Dragon, Darrow Call, Darkon, Cursed Woods, Catacomb, Chandelier, this is great. It's Cultist Camp. There it is. Blood Vaults of Sister Alcava. Okay. So this is the Blood Vaults dungeon map. This was a cool, big, crazy boss fight, too. The beginning dungeon wasn't too crazy. It had a middle area you guys actually skipped with a bunch of people in like Iron Maidens getting their blood drained. The whole map is basically just this insane boss fight, though, where you had like the blood vaults that I think they spawned creatures, and they all had their own hit points that you guys could try to destroy, and then she had like powers tied to the vaults. Like it was a whole neat
The blood
system.
elementals.
Rye died here. That's where where Rye went down.
Well,
I got stuck every year in his tunnel.
I rolled a nat 1 on my death save in this room.
Well, speaking of that, I have some fun trivia. Now, I want you all to guess, what are the total number of downed PCs, downed player characters, by the end of this campaign, combined amongst everybody? How many times did a player character reach 0 hit points? Okay.
I feel like you guys are way low.
I was just
Are we
thinking
just
of
counting
just
Bahn,
on
Bahn.
a
or-
regular basis.
That's just
yeah.
a Bahn number.
That's just fun. How many times players went down to 0 hit points in this campaign? Christopher guessed 12. Morgan guessed 18. John guessed 25. Brandon guessed 45. Genocider guessed 19. Dory guessed 11. Alaric guessed 8. The answer is not exactly one of those, but it is in that range. Total number of downed PCs by the end of this campaign was 21.
21.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's way less than I recall.
That's an average of 0.5 per session. The deadliest session. Does anybody know the deadliest session?
That was the Black Fortress one, for IO and Kovac.
Is that
So
when
by
we
deadliest,
did
I mean
that
the one where
test?
the most amount of player characters would go down.
So we fought that robot.
Was it
thing.
this one?
According to my notes, it
I
was
mean, the one in the basement, the one where I mean, they all seem like they're in the basement, but like we had to go down like a
We got screwed up there.
stairs.
Yeah, we got held up for a minute.
um
Oh, the temple, in the sand.
These are all good guesses. Those are some deadly sessions. I think the very first session where we had 3 people go down to that stupid random crawling claw.
Get a bunch of people in
right.
face.
I read a bunch of crits and like literally
many
3
crits.
people went down to 0 hit points where I was like, oh my goodness, this is not good. They were just slightly more powerful crawling claws, but they were absolutely devastating. And according to my notes, we've never had 3 people go down in a single session since then, which is crazy.
We've had Brandon go down 3 times in a session.
I think that's
Probably.
true. Yeah. In fact,
Probably.
to piggyback on that, I don't think it's any spoiler to say that there were no actual deaths in the campaign. A big goose egg on that stat. Most downed player character. Who's everybody's guess for player character who went down to 0 hit points the most?
Do we even have to type that in?
Bonus points. How many times did they go down? You know the total, right?
This ratio. this
Oh
ratio.
wow! It's at least 15 of those, right?
I think it's got to be I don't think it's 12, but it's got to be at least a third. I'm gonna say 7.
I said 13. Lucky
Okay.
number 13.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna say.
Well, I
it's
mean,
at
it's
least a
funny that
third.
Brandon almost nailed it. It's 8. You went down
Yeah.
8 times throughout the
Yeah,
campaign.
it's got to be at least a
Which
third.
is pretty low considering how squishy your character was and how often I would be able to target you.
Really, it was Token Fate's fault, right? Like, I think if you hadn't had Token Fate, I think it would have been a totally different experience.
Who was the second character who went down the most?
I'll go with Rye.
Because first was easy.
What? No way.
Yeah.
Ryan was beefy.
On the Alaric.
Alaric did go down quite
People
a bit.
voting Alaric? Yeah.
Let's do that.
I can
Yeah.
confirm it's Alaric. Yep. And then here's a really interesting an Alaric 4 times for you also total.
Man.
What is
Half as often as Bahn? That does not believe. That doesn't
Yeah.
seem fair.
the longest number of sessions we had without anyone going down to 0 hit points? Longest number of sessions.
You said
Yeah.
chapter 2 is how many sessions?
Chapter 2 was 11 sessions total. 41 sessions in the campaign. What's the longest streak we had where nobody went down to 0 hit points?
I feel like I was toward the end.
You are right. It was towards the end, which makes sense because we have more points.
Yeah, we're beefier then.
Yep. I should be putting things between, but all right. 8, 10, 6, 7, and 13, 8, and 6. You all guessed pretty high, actually. The longest session we had with anyone going out, or the number of sessions that I calculated was 5 sessions. We had a 5-session streak in chapter 5 where nobody went down to 0 hit points.
That was before the Sulfur Sea, probably.
Yes. Yes. That was like the Pit of All Flesh, Outpost, and various encounters in the Underworld. Maybe even part of the Dragon Graveyard. I'd have to. I mean, I guess I'm getting into things with that chapter, but yeah. So the Blood Vaults was very fun. I like to be able to tie the villain into Alaric's storyline. I think that was a blast. So it ended up being a cool add, I think, to this campaign. And really, probably the only thing I really added, and it wasn't even me. I pulled it from. I changed some things around, obviously, as I do, but I pulled the map and the actual like dungeon design from another one of Kobold Press's stuff. So hats off to them for putting this one together. And then we did chapter 2 finally ended. You met the Spearmaidens of Hope in the ruins of Castle Yarosburg, which was this map. Which I was happy to get to this section because now we've got maps. We've got this ruins map where you all just demolished this manticore from a distance. I think you climbed up a tower and
fireballed him. Yep.
Yeah, I think you just like threw a fireball at him, and I was like,
I just got fireball. I just got fireball. Yeah.
Yeah, literally.
Oh, this is the one. Yes, this is the map.
So this is the one where you all met, I think, the Spear Maidens, and then they were like, we basically just came back from somewhere. Our ally got captured, and they're like, I think they're gonna come hunt us down. And sure enough, you all got to defend this spot as like a bunch of like evil night guys came after you.
This was the creepy ghost kids.
Yes, there were ghost kids too. Here, I just want to show you this guy's like the Dread Knight or something.
Yeah, the Ghost Knight.
Is this where the Grimslayer's blade came from, or is that a different spot?
That is from
this was one of the captains.
Yeah, we're getting
that came from the general. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have the ghost kids on this map for some reason. I must have used a different map for that, or maybe I just deleted them. But yeah, this was the section.
The
ghost kids were like in the forest on the way here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, maybe.
Because we were
right
coming down the
doorway.
path, and they were like in a little side cove.
Okay.
They were in the doorway, and they tried to drag us down into down here and bury us.
Then we got to
Yeah, but this was the second time we saw them. I thought.
Oh, that was there was another similar ghost kid
in the Shadowfey, right?
That was the
Shadowfey. Yeah,
yeah, by the river.
The finale to chapter 2 I really like. So the first half of chapter 2 is what I consider kind of the weakest one, because it was a whole, and it was a pain in the ass for me. It was a lot of travel and all that. But then I liked this ending, which was it's like a fucking heist mission, and you have to rescue a prisoner inside of a fortress that's crawling with like organized undead. So you got to do like a really cool, like you got to get some information, you got to go through a secret tunnel and like pop out in a certain map. This map is 3 different maps for multiple layers, which let's see, which one did we start on? Okay, this is, I think it's actually, it's the second one.
This one's the one where the lightning was, right? Where the lightning was attacking us?
in the courtyard. Yeah, I think so.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is this the fortress where Lucian killed that visitor, that merchant that was staying here?
Yes, you guys.
Yes.
You went up into a tower, and then you kept going up the tower and into like a residential, not residential, but just somebody where somebody was living. Yeah, I think it was the second level of this
It was
map.
the captain. It was the other Ghost Knight captain. And
No, I think he was a
Alaric
merchant
turned
who
him
was
into a
here
ghoul.
trading.
Yeah, there, at
Yeah,
one
it
point
was
you guys
like in a side room.
same tower.
didn't Kovac try to steal from him or something.
think I tried to lie to him, and then he was on to me, so I tried to kill him.
Narc.
Yep. Yeah, I think there were
Yeah,
a
but
merchant who was like
it was a
selling
gnome.
potions to the undead or something, and you guys
Yeah.
you had like you're like, fuck this guy.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think anybody.
I remember Rye running through the courtyard with a broken leg, and we had just like lingered injury, and I was like, I'm going as fast as I can.
Nice. This is a huge
turned-
area, and I feel like we didn't actually even see too much of it.
Yeah.
Look how big this map is.
Alaric
It's
turned
crazy.
the captain into a ghoul. After we killed the Ghost Knight captain, turned him into a ghoul
Yeah, I raised him up.
to open the doors for us. Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah, so this was the second floor, and then this is the first floor. This is the one where you went through the kitchen, and you realized the kitchen is like an actual badass, like undead stat block who was like really doing some painful stuff. Which I think was one of your first like true Daracool mini bosses.
Did we do whatever this thing over here is? Did we fight
No,
that?
that's the. So if I had been able, there's a secret door, and this is the boss room where you killed Grimslade, and Torben got the sword from the evil general guy.
We also got the that one spy leader, Darkhold spy leader. Finally,
Yes,
that we've been
Shroud's
seeing his name on
Vukas
papers.
Shroud's son. Yes, who was I think teased in the first chapter, and he can actually escape. There's a secret door in this room, and that ghoul steed you see is literally his like getaway like horse thing, and he's designed to where he can escape and reappear later in the campaign. But you guys ended up just kicking his ass so much I couldn't escape with him. Yeah, I like this. Even though you can see where you missed I mean, you didn't miss, but you managed to circumvent a lot of the stuff on this map because you went in through a smart secret way, and you did see a lot of this tower, but then you went right into the main keep, obviously, and went through the kitchen, and then just basically right to the boss room. But it's a neat scenario.
Like a cart titan? Is that what that one was? Like the one that travels on all fours?
Yeah, I think. Have you guys fought that stat block, the ghoul steeds? Because I know there's another
Ever
moment.
fought
Oh,
them?
again.
Were they on the way? They were on the way to the
They were in
wedding,
the
weren't they?
creepy forest.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
they
don't
were in
think
the
you fought
creepy
those
forest.
guys,
Okay.
right?
Okay, yeah, we talked our way out of that
No.
Oh
one.
man,
Yeah, we ate our way out of that one. Yes.
some of us ate our way out of that one.
Black.
That's funny. Never actually fought that stat block. So that was the end of chapter 2. That was a long ass. That was 11 chapters that literally began in Zobeck, had all that travel up to the north side, and then over to Jost. And Jost kind of became your hub city, but then you immediately left Jost to go down do all this stuff in Krakovar. And
Wait,
then,
so this was before? Was that before we started playing twice a month occasionally?
boy, I do not have.
That's that. Yeah, no, you don't have to look into it that much. But if it's 11, you said 11 sessions.
Yeah,
I mean that could have been a year.
it
Like,
could have
that
been.
could have almost been a year's worth of play right there.
Yeah.
Oh, how linear was that chapter for the source material, or is that one of those where it was like open, and if the cliche one, like it's just open and the players are supposed to decide, and you as the DM are like.
But before you answer, I'm gonna say that as a player, and this isn't a criticism to you, but it felt like it was on rails pretty hard.
Yes, I will say that it was not designed like the open-ended, like, hey, here's all the different points on the map that your players go to. This is very much your players need to go here, then here, then here, then here, then here, and then here, and there.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that problem might be a criticism of the campaign. There's almost never, which I always like to see that in my campaigns, is like, all right, where's the hex crawl part of the campaign? Like, where's the part where, I mean, obviously dungeon crawls can do that to an extent, but like, where's the big map where players have like multiple points of interest and they have to explore around and find a thing or do a thing? And this one doesn't really have that. It's just hey, they need to get to this point over here. Maybe the necropolis might be the nearest thing to that I can think of in chapter 4. But like even when we get to chapter 3, it was also like, hey, now we're in this region, and now you're gonna go here, 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 and here. There's not really any kind of like open world section to any of these. I will say, as a DM, I find those very challenging to run anyway, because obviously you have to like prep for multiple things and try to figure out what your player's gonna do. But yes, I agree. It was very railroady, and I probably didn't help things either.
Well, and I was going to say, as a player, where we're only getting to play once every 2 weeks or once every month, it was all right with it being on rails, right? Like it was one of those things. It's like, hey, we know our objective, we know where we're going,
and where it wasn't always the same player. So
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I would.
Yeah.
I think definitely don't take it as any criticism. I think it probably worked better for what we had to deal with for it to be a little bit more.
Yeah, and I knew that going into it. It was very much like a kind of a railroady, like, hey, we're going to give you the sampler, the appetizer of our worldview. So we're going to kind of kick things over and try to get you to where we need to go. But it's crazy looking at the map going, wow, they go a long way in this one chapter.
It's very intimidating too. Like, because, Midgard, I know nothing about still, right? Like I've been, it's a
hopefully
year,
you know a few things about
I know more
that.
things than I did. Yeah. I know more things than
hopefully
I did.
Hopefully you know a few things.
I've learned nothing.
Or I've completely failed. So, chapter...
Eric, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So in chapter 2, when we were traveling with the Archduke, and you had that one fight where it was clear the intent was to kidnap the Archduke.
Yes.
Did that screw you up that we stopped you? Like,
No.
did you have to then rewrite that part or no?
You are supposed to stop me.
Got it. Okay.
so we could have sucked.
Peeling back the layers of the DM screen. Like, yeah, no, you're supposed to thwart me there.
Okay.
I'm trying to look back to the notes to see what happens if he actually makes it. But, okay, there's a sentence here. If the ghouls successfully abducted Avgos, they are assaulted by the Medusa in the tunnels, giving the characters a chance to rescue the Archduke. So apparently there's a Medusa down in the that's where the fucking Medusa is down chilling in the tunnels where the ghouls came up from initially? Like, I don't know.
They failed their stealth check on the way back.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's kind of it's to tease the fact that they're after, the Archduke, and that's a serious thing. So once you drop them off in Jost, chapter 3 begins where you start off in Jost, and by the time we get to chapter 3, we're starting at level 6. And now the quest, this is probably the one that's the most, well, I guess it's similar to chapter 1, where it's like, hey, the undead are doing some shenanigans, we need to go stop them. I feel like I changed the, quest to get you there, though. I think it was, you met with some kind of oracle, but I think I changed that to you're just meeting with,
excuse me.
Whatever the...
Wasn't it the blood wedding?
It was the blood wedding, yeah. But you all didn't know that the blood wedding was a blood wedding. Like, I think we teased the fact that was coming, right? Like, I don't know.
She's the one that told us. It was the priest of Sif,
Okay.
priestess of Sif, that told us.
There was some, evil ceremony or something? Or was it an actual wedding?
Yeah. That there was supposed to be a wedding between the designates of 2 of the gods, and it would be bad.
Okay.
So we needed to go stop it.
Yeah, that was the whole reason to get on the boat in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, so chapter 3 then takes place in this whole upper area here of Wolfheim, which is like their Viking lands, I guess.
The Reaver Caves where we found the skin invitation.
Yes. Yep,
Okay.
so you went to the boat, Reaver Cave, which was a very miniature dungeon crawl, but I remember you guys made that one really fun. I know I had that. There we go. Map for that one. There. This is where you fought the cannibal dwarves.
Yeah.
And their giant boars.
Was this the first time that Bahn took on another
It was the
persona?
only time. Yeah, it was the only time
you
that I
could use it
did.
too often. Yeah, I think that's what made it so much fun, is doing those kind of shit.
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't want to repeat the problem really. Like there was never another opportunity to use it where I thought was as good as what this one was. So I was content with it.
Yeah, and then unfortunately it was a lot of we just done a bunch of travel, and I went there and was like, oh, okay, we're doing a lot more travel again in chapter 3.
Wasn't that where we got the boat? And I feel like
Yes.
you named the boat and you made a flag for it, and
Yep,
then I felt
yep,
like
should-
then we kind of didn't use the boat anymore.
Nope, I knew that was going to be the thing. That was the whole thing. Like it was Bahn was setting up an absentee ownership is what it was. Yeah.
Just stepping back for a second on the trip over, I remember
Yeah.
Rye grabbing the enemy captain with one of his spells and throwing him in the ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Vortex warp. Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to find the swamp map, but I don't remember what I would have called it. But the swamp. Now we're getting to the flying bears one. Where there were, or no, this is river. This is a river, swampy river thing. Oh, what's that called? Shieldfall River. I think that's this map.
This was the flying bears.
Yep.
This is the flying bears. Yeah, you
Yep.
fought these like ape things, and you're trying to rescue 2 more bear folk who were like on their way to Huldromos, which were like the big order of warrior women in the jungle or something. Which we had a really fun session that was a pure town session with a lot of, it was like you did like a feast at this place, right? You showed up and then you could do all these like stations where you could do different events. I forgot what the mini games were, but I remember I think Lucian and Io did like the snake venom one, and you like talked to the snakes or something, and we're like, I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I said, please don't eat him. And then he ended up getting bit anyways. And isn't that how he had that vision?
The vision, yes,
From the
of
snake
the
venom?
blood wedding, I think. Or it was also the ghosts in the forest that kind of teased like a lot of the events
Yep.
that were going to happen, basically. Don't know. I did have a map of Jost I used. I don't remember what I used for the map of the
And then
town.
Rye got charmed.
No,
Right?
I don't think so. I did the
Oh, who got charmed?
something with logs.
No, but
I think
remember the
Alaric got
woman
charmed,
that was
maybe?
there?
Was it Alaric?
I think
Yeah, there was somebody who was like spying on you all, and it might have been Alaric, yeah, where they cast some spell.
And try to like shake him out of it.
Yeah. I don't remember what map I used for this.
But Alaric was drunk off his hide.
Yes.
So we all just thought it was something.
Yep, I remember that. I do not know what map I used for that though, but that was fun. I like that. That was a fun. That was a tricky one as a DM to run because you like have no idea the timing of anything or if who's going to engage with what. But that actually ended up being a full session. Is just doing all those little fun mini games and stuff around the town. Then there was an attack at this weird like Stonehenge cultist camp thing, where we fought a bunch of like. I feel like at one point it's just Kobold Press is like excuse to use certain stat blocks. I feel like they're like, let's use these little weird goblin dwarf guys. And then you met with the Valkyries, who basically teleported you across to, which I was like, oh, thank goodness, we don't have to do another like travel thing. Towards the Cursed Forest, which is I'm really like playing it fast and loose with the scooching you along the areas. This back to this overland map, but they dropped you off kind of like here, and this is where you had the patrol come up to you and with the ghoul steeds and everything, and you all played it really cool to where Alaric even like they tried to share, like I think you were all disguised as undead at that point. I forget how because you didn't have the magic book yet, but I guess maybe you weren't even disguised as undead. Maybe we were just like, yeah,
I don't
we're
think
just
we were yet.
invited.
Yeah. I think we showed the invitation.
Oh, maybe you were
It was
disguised
Alaric's
as
entourage.
you were disguised
Vampires
as the
and stuff.
cannibals, because like the dwarf cannibals weren't undead, but they were still cannibals. So they wanted to prove that you were cannibals by offering you some human flesh, and Alaric partook.
Yes, as a vampire. So
yeah, and that
another con save I failed.
that avoided a whole fight with a bunch of dudes right outside of that ghost forest.
The section after that, I remember being creepy because it was like we were swarmed by like little, I don't know,
They were like swarms of ghosts. They were like huge balls of ghosts. But at first they didn't do. This was a fun one to run because you would go through this cursed forest and just see ghosts, and they weren't hostile, but they would keep like trying to interact with you and like try to reach out and maybe touch you or something. And like the further you got, the more aggressive they got.
Yeah.
I think there were maybe some like checks or saves you all had to make. I'm trying to remember, it's called Ruins of Nordheim, because I had maps for this where I had like a shit ton of ghosts on the board.
That was the episode that we ended up getting cut because we lost our internet.
The internet, yeah. You guys were like, "Hey,
you guys had to finish that episode without us."
Yes, you're like, they're doing work on our internet. We can't. It's this one right here.
I was really tempted to stab those little ghost doors.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because I think it was by the end of it was Alaric, Bahn, and Kovac trying to survive this. Look at all those tokens. I went nuts with it. And then they formed this like crazy big, like I basically just played with the token size, but I liked the token art of it. And they would form these like swarm stat blocks that would get all up on you. Yeah, that was neat. That was a full session of just going through these. Because at one point I think I had you had to rest in here too. It wasn't like a day's travel. It was like 3 or 4 days of travel. Like it was like really supposed to be like this oppressive like horror situation, and you all had to rest, and you would like hear like creepy voices and stuff happening outside. And I would keep making you roll saves and all this stuff. Like it was meant to be.
I think you had some sort of like a horror mechanic in here. I think
so too.
As well.
Yeah, I did. During the rest, you all would like lose hit dice.
I think it was a con save or something.
Yeah,
right?
I have it written down. Must make a wisdom save or take psychic damage. And then you could make a charisma save and then have disadvantage on ability checks. You would lose more hit die. Wow, it was 4 days of travel, looks like, according to my notes. By the end of it, it was like you had to make saves for madness. Yeah, that was a gauntlet.
I think because we didn't have to fight those guys, they cut 1 day of travel off for us because we were escorted partway through.
Yes, I think because you did really well with the first. Yeah, you're right. The first ones, I think you skipped like the first day of travel or something. But yeah, I like that. That was a big part of the. I mean, it's literally like this huge, like multiple. Well, I can't see because of the light, but it's the whole page, 2-page spread on just getting through this. Cursed Forest area. And then the finale of chapter 3 was the Blood Wedding, the Midnight Temple, which was kind of just one big ass fight, kind of almost a campaign ending style fight. I think you had one skirmish outside of the building where you fought some creatures, but then once you make it inside, it's just a huge damn fight.
I tried to talk us out of the fight.
Well, the holy robes spilled out. Oh, sorry. I think I had a nat 1 on that persuasion check.
Fell out of your shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do I have them?
My favorite memory of this was Rye chucking the fire elemental and just laying down in the balcony.
Just ducking out of sight.
I'm not losing concentration.
Well, we were upstairs.
Yeah.
Lucia and I went upstairs.
Yep, there's a whole balcony area.
And they did blade barrier around that so we couldn't interrupt it, and you just dropped it right in the middle. It's like, we're not trapped in here with you. You're trapped in here with us.
God, there was a lot of
and then the bad guy took off, and then we made it so that the elemental would just go chase him.
Yeah. I think I had it be a load-bearing boss too, right? I think once the boss was defeated, the whole place started coming down, and you all had to like start getting out of there.
And Alaric everybody got picked up by a Valkyries again. Alaric was a very happy boy.
Yeah, that's right. Because once you guys destroyed it, they could. Because that's right, they couldn't get near it. There was some kind of protective thing there, and then once you all destroyed this thing, now they could come pick you up. Yeah, huge.
What were those guys over on the right?
These guys?
They look like werewolves.
Darrow, yeah. That was the regular kind of crazed minion stat block you all fought. So there were some basically there were doors on the east and west. Had you guys try to go around and go in different places, all the different places were guarded. But
I remember getting a nat 20 on a bite on one of those guys.
Oof.
and realized,
this the
they're not
place-
near as powerful as Darakel.
Is this the place that Lucian came down and opened the vial of sunlight? Because we got it en route to here, right? Is that?
Yeah.
Probably.
That was his wedding gift to the bride, who is a vampire
That's
spawn.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. And then when the building was starting to collapse, I ran around in IO elk form and collected all the wedding gifts.
Yeah, all the
I
loot.
was tossing
Yes.
the trunk
Yes.
That was always a
of
concern.
loot up onto my antlers. Yeah.
The loot. Someone grab the loot. What about some more trivia? How many total critical hits did the party collectively achieve by the end of the campaign? Not necessarily just critical, or not necessarily critical successes, specifically critical hits. So nat 20s on attack rolls only. How many of those were achieved collectively by the end of the campaign?
That's tough. I don't know that one.
Yeah, CT says 42, Morgan 86, Dory 91, Brandon 45, John 55, Stan 53, Genocider 35. These are some good guesses. You all definitely are around the correct answer. Total number of crits, according to my notes, is...
Deep Thought says 42. That's why I was.
Yeah, it's always a good guess. 66.
Wow.
66, which puts an average of 1.6 per session. Now, for bonus points, who got the most critical hits? In fact, I have it written down, top 3 player characters who achieved the most critical hits. This one's interesting. You have to think about who's rolling attack rolls.
Yeah, I would say Alaric, Zabiri.
Are we doing top
that's right.
3?
Look,
And
I
they
don't
were
know
doing right because the Barrier got 3 attacks.
True.
Yeah.
Although it's something that's said if a player doesn't join until later in the campaign.
I'm not being
We lost Stan.
narcissistic, but I'm guessing me.
I wasn't being narcissistic either. I was just answering the question.
Yeah.
I felt like I had a bunch of crits, but I didn't roll as
shoot,
much.
you do roll
as
attacks.
That's true.
Yeah.
Like a lot of spells are attack rolls. People are guessing Zabiri, Alaric, and Torben. Alaric, Zabiri, Io. Zabiri, Alaric, Millie. Alaric, Zabiri, Io. So kind of the same ones. The one who achieved the most critical hits surprised me at first, but then I was like, okay, you were doing multi-attacking before anybody else was Io.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Achieved 13 critical hits by the
Whoa.
end. 13 being the most.
Dang.
Yeah.
Dang.
But if you think about it, your bear multi-attacking from level 2 on, and you did a lot of shape-shifting to bear and attacking compared to others. Number 2 shocked me, honestly, and yet we also got shocked about his damage. Kovac.
Crazy.
With 11 critical hits.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. Nasty on a rogue, too. It's nasty.
Yeah. Didn't you get a crit in the finale?
No.
No? Okay. I thought
He
you
just did like a
for some
regular
reason.
70 damage.
Yeah, that's good. That's what it was.
Just a normal 70.
Yeah. And then third was Alaric. Also got a lot of attacks off. So pretty close. Let's see. If
That's
I can...
fun.
Everybody guesses Zabiri. Yeah, no, Zabiri is just about the same as everybody else, I guess. Which, if Jason was here, he'd probably be like, yeah, those are my rolls. I feel like a lot of people, Zabiri, Millie, Torben, a lot of folks got Bahn were about around 6 or 7, basically critical hits.
Alaric's crits came probably from Reaper doing twin chill touches.
Are those attack rolls? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. That probably helps. Chapter. So once we finish this one, we teleport back to Jost, and then when you return to Jost, that's when you finally get the news that the Archduke has been kidnapped. So we officially kick off finally with the actual main plot of the campaign at the start of chapter 4, which is we start at level 8, and your goal is literally just to rescue the Archduke because we like him. He's trying to reestablish like Krakova and negotiate with the dwarves, and I try to put a bunch of political stuff in there, which is part of the book, that make him an important figure. And you all were allied with them anyway, and certainly don't like the Ghoul Imperium stuff. So that being said, it's a lot of work to rescue one dude. So your first goal, though, was the entire goal of chapter 4 isn't actually to rescue the Archduke. It's to get that magic book that lets you magically disguise yourself as undead, because that's what lets you go into the Underworld in order to go after the Archduke. That's the one piece of information you have, is that we know that they were captured by the Imperium and he's already been brought to the Underworld. And then your other intel is like, or I guess you go actually in one session, you have to go back and meet with the other Krakovan noble back in Cryasyn. And that's where they tell you is like, all right, well, you need to disguise yourself as undead. You talk with which I already put there was another part where it's like, then you have to travel back to the dwarves and talk to dwarves. But I'm like, no, they don't, book. They're not going to do that. The dwarf is going to be at the one place and they can just get all the information from one fucking place. We're not going to fucking travel around just to talk to people. Stop it. So instead we did all our talking in that one first session. And then we entered the Shadow Road for the second time, which is when I got to reuse Rise Paramour, which was a lot of fun. And set up basically several Fey Road encounters, which I had
more creepy kids.
No fucking maps for at all. This was a case where I was like, all right, as soon as I show you this map, you'll be like, oh my god.
This is the party we got drunk at, right? Like we ate too much food.
Yeah, there was like a creepy party where you all had fun, and then you like woke up and there was nobody there except for Io, who's like playing the mom and just like, y'all shouldn't be doing this, and I can't drink anyway. Look at this map though. Like I had nothing. It's just a road and a bunch of trees. It's okay. The power of dynamic lighting and like a bunch of Roll20 assets. Yeah, there was this party thing, and then there was one where there's a battle, and I think this is the one where you meet.
This was one of the sections that Bahn and Io had a heart-to-heart, wasn't it? It wasn't it the morning after?
I think the heart-to-heart was more like, I know you're trying to steal the robes, knock your shit off. I think that was kind of the heart-to-heart.
Maybe that was.
And then you walked into the river.
I think that was.
That's
coming up. That's coming up.
Right around the corner.
I don't want to spoil it. What is next?
Yeah.
This is the Fade to Black episode.
Yeah, so this was a cool little Shadow Road part of it where there's there's just so much of these travel things are just big ass encounter tables. But at least they also include some neat scripted encounters, which was the feast, like the dance troupe was a scripted encounter. I was like, well, I'm definitely running that. The river was a scripted encounter, whether you cross the like river Styx or whatever. I'm running that one. So on the one hand, I don't like just random encounter tables, but then they also throw some good scripted ones in there, and that's what the ones that I basically end up using. Which that one, I think that's the one where you teleported, or you polymorphed into like an eagle and carried everybody over the river at some point after the battle.
I remember they carried Alaric over first and left him by himself. Then everybody came over.
Or you teleported Torben. Yeah, or I keep saying teleported. Yeah. Polymorphed,
Torben.
Polymorphed.
Yeah,
because if your Torben was the biggest,
it
couldn't be carried.
Right, it couldn't be carried. Yeah.
Right. Lucian polymorphed Torben, and then I polymorphed myself, I think.
Okay.
To carry. Yeah.
That's right. This is the one where you fought the creepy kids and you put down like that fucking radiation cloud, and they all got destroyed running through it. It was insane.
We had 3 overlaps. We had Lucian with Sickening Radiance. Spike growth was down. And I think I had I had Spirit Guardians.
Oh my
So it was
gosh.
just a shipper shredder.
It was a shredder. I would just run through it and they would just all get annihilated. But then I think Bahn accidentally stepped in the river, and it has some kind of save system with it, but it's pretty scary.
Yeah, accidentally.
I didn't know anything about it. Yeah, I didn't know anything about it. But you had dropped enough like "Don't step in the rivers." I was like, okay, I gotta see what happens. And then it was great. Bahn didn't have a problem. His dark vision was extended 60 feet.
I'll copy and paste all the things that can happen from that table. I think it was something like you turn a different shade or something. Or you got the second one, I think.
I thought my eyes went black.
Your eyes became black, yeah, and your dark vision increased. Yeah, there's one where your skin becomes pale, your eye sockets and eyes become larger and become blinded if exposed to bright light. To become thinner and haunched. You gain the sickened condition as long as you remain in the area bright. I don't know what the sickened condition is. Got you burn if exposed to light. There's a lot of bad things. You become a shadow thrall. I don't even know what that means because we didn't have those come up. But yeah, you were really playing with that one, and Io was like, no, fucking, you're not getting in this river.
So my notes say that I accidentally stepped into the Shadow River. My dark vision extended 60 feet, dazzled in bright light. Dazzled, which I thought was like, I'm unfamiliar with dazzled as a condition.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing with these conditions.
I spent time looking up dazzled, and I still couldn't find anything other than it was a reference to like maybe a 3.5 thing or something. Io thorn whipped him out of the river, even though Bahn kept trying to go back in. This is what
Thorn whipped him out of there. I forgot about that part. And to fish his ass out.
Yep.
Like, do not
little
step in
PvP.
the deadly inky black river of memory loss, please.
Come on in, it's fine.
Yeah, and then its section has its own boss battle with the standing stones, where you all fought. Which
there was a minefield there.
Yeah, there was a fun thing where I had you encounter a Shadow Fae very early in the session, where she was like asking you questions and just, you guys encountered Shadow Fae before. You're like, all right, I'll talk to them, whatever. And then she turned out to be basically the boss of this area, where she shows up. She's like, hey, I'm actually working for the villain, and you guys can't actually make it out of here.
That was the map where no one could get out of a leg trap.
Yes, there was
terrible.
Yeah, there were traps everywhere. So these villains were like set up here. An excuse to fight a bunch of like Shadow Fae stat blocks.
I remember I was watching this when it came out, and I saw her stats, and she was like, oh, she's a badass melee fighter.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of surprises like that. God, I think this guy got annihilated, though, the poor Fae Guardian guy. He's got like 3 debuffs on him right now, I can see.
I remember Torben doing the kamikaze dive from Eagle.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
He was still in Eagle form. Yeah.
That was super fun.
And he ended up like right in the middle of everybody and just like, all right.
That saved our bacon, having somebody be able to do melee back in there.
Yeah. That was the Shadow Fae lady, I believe.
That chess piece.
This guy was cool.
Yeah.
Yep. So that was. So I mean, this feels like its own chapter, but it was only the first half of chapter 4, and then you all tell it. So you use the shadow roads to go from wherever you actually. So yeah, weirdly, and you made it all the way back, which I think I just montaged you, didn't I? From the beginning of this chapter, you were in Jost, and you're like, oh, you got to go back to Coriason, which is like literally backtracking through half of chapter 2. And I'm pretty sure I just like, yeah, you're there. I don't fucking care. You show up there. Like we're not doing that again. So that we can do the more interesting travel, which this one, these don't even feel like travel, right? They just feel like linear dungeon crawl, I think, at that point, where it's like, oh, you're just kind of scripted. You're going through these scripted encounters at that point. But then you end up in Sual, which was the like, I don't know, Egyptian themed, desert, Arabian Nights themed area. Where is that one?
So we got Snips.
Yes.
Yeah, this is where we met Snips, right?
Yep.
And Bahn and Rye could not parkour. Simple step
so hard.
Yeah, I had an encounter set up where that was cool too. I got to introduce Snips this map where I threw together another map that I had to put together with the kind of desert city map, and you all fought basically a bunch of like criminal gangsters, like catfolk and stuff, and Snips was just one of them that ended up helping you guys. So that was a neat way of. It just ended up lining up. Like sometimes if a new player joins the middle of a dungeon, I can't really do much with that. But other times, if it's like this situation, you show up, literally your first session is like that you arriving in a new city, then it really becomes like a JRPG thing. We're like, oh, well, here's your cool new character is going to join in and pop down and do cool shit. That was definitely this one.
I enjoyed Alaric and Torben side by side in that small alley, and the bird gang thinking they had us, and we just started stacking them. That was fun.
Yeah, there were bird people. That's right. I thought I had a different map than this, but this is the.
I thought Snips was like a vigilante after that introduction, right? Like I thought
so.
he was like a quiet vigilante of Sewell.
Yeah.
And Bahn didn't trust him, which I thought when I watched that episode, I was like, that's like a weird. I figured like Bahn's like, oh, this guy's a little shifty shady. I'm gonna take him under my wing.
No, there's only room for one shifty shady person.
Yeah.
You can't have more than one. Yeah, no, it's.
And then you got to meet with your NPC of Farah, and you asked about, hey, do you have this? Because you had basically told this magic item was here in this town, and she was like, yes, I can. Or no, you were asked like, how do these people end up moving around with the undead? Because we've heard you have a necropolis that's like ruled by the dead. And they're like, well, yeah, they are. Basically, we come in there during the day and we let them rule it at night. We kind of have a peace accords. And she does have an item that does a magical effect you're looking for, but she'll only give it to you if you fix their problem, which is of course like, oh, but suddenly these peace accords are being broken lately, and the undead are suddenly like killing people and being seen during the day, and that's not supposed to be the case, which is going into the necropolis of Sewell, which this might have been the closest thing we had to like, okay, you're entering an area that you all can explore. Yeah. And I actually had like notes about, okay, there's like 2 or 3 different areas you all can check out, and you're getting kind of investigations and clues, and you can kind of take the initiative in terms of how you want to explore this area. And I had like 1 or 2 encounters planned for when you're exploring. You talk to like those undead vultures, the Gypso Sphinx or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I even had a map for that prepared just in case, but I knew when I was running it that it wasn't supposed to be a fight. And also you met like the desert troll. Like it was I always love as a DM when you get to interact with creatures that you normally think is just a fight, but instead it's this kind of like twist of a social encounter instead. So you meet like the grave caretaker. It's this big hulking nasty troll, but Alaric has this really sweet heart to heart with this guy. And you end up talking to the Gypso Sphinx, and basically get some information.
Like some elementals just before that.
Yes,
I remember doing it immediately afterwards too, but I don't remember if we fought them before that.
Yeah, there was some kind of sand elemental creature, and then also you fought some spell casting ghouls. Also have, let's see, I have one map called Necropolis. I have so many flipping maps. Which one is this? Okay, this was
the sand.
This must be this. Yeah, I actually put like sand on this map too. Yeah, these creatures, I guess.
Yeah,
sand guys.
I remember that fight being interesting.
Yeah, I made this map from the ground up. This is a blank map using a bunch of Roll20 assets.
Oh, that's good.
This is not a map. Wow. Like these, every individual gravestone you see, I put on this fucking map. Using various assets and stuff, because I could not find just a regular like desert ass cemetery necropolis looking thing. I could find like what I could find were like art assets. Were like, oh, here's how to make your own of that map. I was like, all right, fuck. But it turned out pretty good. And there was
this is where half of Bahn's drops to 0 came on this map.
It was this one, and well, there was the. Is this one? This is what I'm looking for.
Alaric yelled at Bahn after this one. You made me heal you.
Yeah.
This was a nasty one. I remember. This was the also one where I made it myself.
Oh yeah, this one. Okay.
With the spell, these were the spellcasting ghouls. It's supposed to be like genie ghouls or something. And they had their ghoul claw attacks, and they had a bunch of just really nasty spells that they're just. I mean, they had fireball. They had fireball, stinking cloud, shatter, misty step. Like they were built for it, and like 100 hit points.
I think this is the one you showed. There's like another picture you showed too, and it really reminded me. It's like they're like undead genasi.
Yes. Like, there is a cool picture of that.
Yep.
Yeah, they're all like elemental themed. Yeah, that was a neat stat block. I probably should have used those guys some more. That was a neat one. Which led us to. Yeah, I don't know. It should somewhere be in the journal. That led us to the biggest dungeon crawl of the campaign we've done so far, which I believe. Yeah, so Snips had joined us at the start of this chapter, and then Zabiri joined us literally during the boss fight session of this dungeon. And then I think Morgan joined us as Millie after that, once we got to chapter 5, I think.
Chris was in for one episode of this.
Yes. Maybe for 2, I don't remember. Oh wait, this is the boss fight. Shoot, it starts on.
He was there for the vampire harpy.
Yeah, this is a confusing one. I think it starts on 3 and you go down to 1. Nope. It goes 2, 3.
This is where we went across the ceiling.
Sorry, I'm moving maps rapidly, I know. Okay. You start on the second map, then you go to the third map, then you go to the first map. Okay. Yes. So this I was excited about because I'm like, all right, we get to do just a big dungeon crawl. That's a cool bunch of traps and like undead creatures and neat stuff going on here. And it lasted 3 episodes. It was a full 3-episode dungeon crawl. The Grand Necropolis section lasted 2 episodes. We leveled up to 9. Is it 9? Yeah, or we were level 9. And then we did this giant dungeon crawl, which I really liked. There's a lot of traps in here. Some cool enemies. Fight these Anubis guys. This is
wasn't there like the hand monster in Zelda in the beginning of this one?
I know what you're talking about, but I don't think it was a hand. This one had the flame skull guys.
Okay.
That would kind of chase
For some reason,
guys.
I guess I was thinking, yeah, it was just chasing us through. Okay.
So this one had the ghost of a brother who initially sealed away the boss, and there was a lot of story stuff that I put in here, which I also liked. That you kind of learn about like what's going on here, and the fact that some other grave robbers came in here recently and basically disturbed enough to where it released the boss, the Ghoul King, but not enough to where he can leave this place. So instead, his power is just being like exerted and influencing the surrounding undead, and they're kind of working for him. And then you were also supposed to look for like his brother, I think. He was designed to be like a wraith, like just a straight up combat fight, but I made him more of a social encounter, I think.
Sorrowsworn, yeah. I remember everyone forgot to tell Alaric, don't loiter in the rug room.
Yeah, and the rug pops up.
And ended up biting a rug. That was fun. Yeah, he got that poor rug got afflicted with carrion beetles.
Rushed past the
got
rug
on fire.
and initiated a fight.
Yeah.
I feel like Ryan and I did.
Indoor.
Yeah, and then the whole thing went into like a cyclone.
Yep, it was a big whirlwind, which is why I've got all that air looking shit in here. It was like one zombie, that's right. There was one zombie who steps on the trap, like as you guys are in here, and that's what sets off this giant like indoor tornado thing.
I remember Rye was just gonna shoot it, and then I was like, "Wait, what if it's the brother?" And then we hesitated, and then we found out it wasn't the brother. It was it was a baddie.
And then you go into this amazing trap. This was the reverse gravity trap, where you all came up. I don't remember if you were going downstairs or upstairs from here. But like as soon as people walk in here, gravity shifts and they fly up into the air and like slam against the ceiling. And this is the one where at one point Rye was just like, fuck it, I'm just stepping out and I'm going to deal with the consequence. Like everybody else was doing like levitates and flies or parkour things. And Rye was like, I'm just going for it. I know I can't parkour. But I just love that. Like just good old fashioned reverse gravity trap. This is a weird dungeon, by the way, if you can see this. There's a whole like outer area that you can like kind of escape and stealth around in a back room. I think you guys did find it at one point, and then it's like, okay, we can go back in.
Well, because we found the pathway up
Yeah.
to the surface.
I guess that's supposed to be how the ghoul, like everybody's making in and out without triggering all the other things. This is where the brother was, which was this kind of, I used the Sorrowsworn, the dude with the knife hand stat block. And this is the one where like he hugs Lucian and you basically have to talk him down while he's hugging and stabbing, which I thought was a really neat twist. It was like, I don't want to treat this as a traditional combat fight, but it's going to be like kind of a dangerous social encounter, basically. But I like the way
It's
that
the first time Alaric got the fly and Lucian regarded it.
Yeah. Yeah.
have created
Because
a
I'm probably up in the
monster.
reverse gravity trap. And then this was where Alaric showed off down here, where I had all this skeleton spawn, and Alaric went pretty early, and he was like, no. And he just used his turn undead, and it vaporized like all of them. And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't know he could do that. Surprised the DM with that one. I think this was the session Zabiri joined. Yeah, there's Zabiri's original token.
Yeah.
And this is where you fought the vampiric owl harpy boss. Apparently made it quite a bit trying to escape. Mini boss, I guess. Actually, because this was the mini boss before the boss fight.
There's like a hatch underneath her thing.
Yeah, and an S. Yeah, there's Chris's character, his hippie. Then we had the final boss fight against the Ghoul King. We got to see Rise Hellhound for the first time, I believe. This is where Jason hated me because the entire ground was difficult terrain, so he couldn't get around very easily. The boss also summons an air elemental in this fight, which makes it pretty difficult. At one point, a mummy falls down the shaft and tries to fight you guys. It's just there to absorb hit points, basically.
I think Chris had like a magical feather. That was the
Sounds
something.
Right.
Yeah, it was
Cool Kings. Yeah, this guy had legendary actions. He could summon air elemental. He could do thunder wave. He had that's right. He had layer actions, including a whirlwind sand. He could summon mummies. This dude was a straight up huge boss fight.
Paul's feather token. It was a whip.
Yeah.
This is where you got the Circle of Blasting and where Millie got, or I guess eventually got the Decanter of Endless Water from. Both those pieces of loot were from this boss. I like this boss fight. I like this whole dungeon, honestly. I just love a big dungeon fight. Go ahead.
I think it was one of Millie's starting items, in fact.
Oh. Well, it turns out we had one from here. So the reward from completing this dungeon, defeating this Ghoul King, was to return to Farah and get the Book of the Hungering Dead, which allows you to officially disguise as undead. And you also meet somebody who can simply teleport you directly to the Underworld, which I believe is all written from the book, which, again, I was like, oh, thank goodness.
They finally caught on. And
also it was like, hey, we're finally getting to the freaking Underworld, which is what I thought this whole, I mean, I knew going into it, but when I first reviewed the campaign, whenever it came out, I was like, oh, cool, it's a campaign like set in the Underworld, like Out of the Abyss or something. But actually, it's only the end of it from, high level on, which was, let's see, chapter 5 starts at level 10. So you don't actually get to the Underworld, Empire of the Ghouls stuff until you are 10th level in chapter 5. Which is, of course, this familiar map, which I will finally showcase this insane Underworld map, which we only used a very small piece of. You'll probably have to zoom out to actually see parts of it, but we spawned in. It's such a cool map, and I was like, man, we only use a very small piece. I guess as a source book, this campaign works very well for the Underworld thing.
What the hell's up with Spiderfall?
It's such a neat map. So we spawn in here at Pillars of the Underworld, is where we began the adventure. That's where you met the Kobold Bat Lady, or the Bat Caretaker, and you kind of had to make your way down from these giant stalactites. And I think you went and like helped her like return like or fetch a new bat or something to do that. But that was again there was random encounter tables, but also there were scripted encounters to where that was like literally one of the scripted encounters. Also, one of the scripted encounters was the patrol full of slaves that fucking Bahn ended up just running with for like 10 sessions afterwards after you defeated the bad guys and sort of emancipated them, but not really. They just kind of transfer of service, I think. Which
that was a short-sighted plan that got out of hand.
All those encounters were, again, maps I had to throw together because there were no maps for any of this stuff. That's not the right map.
I'm sorry, there's a spawning grounds for abelisks on this map?
Isn't that an insane map? There's so many crazy things on there. And you look at it, you're like, wow, there's so many things I can do. But then I looked at chapter, there's like a cool opportunities, but unfortunately there's never a open world section in this chapter, and there's enough content where I'm like, I really don't feel like I need to add anything here, which is too bad because it seems like this is a good opportunity to do that. Yeah, I can't find those maps now.
There's a place called Rot Tooth Ford. Grim Tooth Rot Bone.
Oh, shit.
Up here.
Funny.
On the Yellow River.
There's so many cool things here. So the route you took, we should draw, let me draw on this map. Let's go. All right, so you start, nope, why is it not drawing? Maybe it's just laggy. It's just laggy. All right, so you start at Pillars, and then you made your way up to, of course, the Pit of All Flesh. So you are told to look for, is it Darrow, I think? Or what is maybe it's Darrow. Like, there's a certain cult. So you're looking for Narrowzane, who is the deposed ghoul lord, who should be able to help you all. Basically, the only lead you have going down here, right? It's like, hey, you need to try to look this guy up. He should be able to help you. He knows things. Good luck, because you still don't know, like, where you need to go or anything. So the Pit of All Flesh, where you arrive in the outpost. Honestly, I loved this section. Firstly, I was super excited just to get to this area finally and start running the actual, like, Empire, the Ghouls Empire. But the way you all ran this section was just delightful. Like,
Cult of the Withered Hand.
It was the bureaucrat stuff. It was the nasty kitchen thing. This is a neat map, which is finally included, which I was appreciated to have a full map of this area. It felt like, okay, finally, this is an area we all walk in and you can just decide what to do. There's so many things to interact with. There's taverns, there's prisons full of people, there's a temple. There's like an office, multiple offices, there's a barracks, there's just all kinds of shenanigans you can get up to here, which is fantastic. But the whole goal is just to realize you need to go to, of course, the giant like arena gladiator pit, which does not have a map. So now I'm back to having to throw a map together. But I really we did a whole session of just in this area, and I absolutely loved it. And then we did a second session in the arena, where Alaric turned on daylight and just fucking nuked whole sections of the stadium. Thankfully...
Sorry about your boyfriend there, Millie.
Yeah, everybody did get a little nuked here. Yeah, I had put prisoners in the lowest section to try and get you guys to go down there, but then you did that big AoE, and I'm like, oh, fuck. Just killed all those prisoners. I like this one, too, but obviously it was challenging in D&D. I love cinematic moments in D&D, but they're also very challenging to run, where you're trying to keep up with like the momentum of everything that's happening. You're trying to create that framing of this huge moment going on without it adding more complexity and more time to the session. So there's a bunch of cheering crowds and people running around and all that in this one big, basically super Achug stat block, Lord of all Flesh, that you all pretty much kicked ass in, I think. This is when you all really start hitting those nice high level peaks, and I was like, oh man, they are going crazy. But I liked it a lot.
I had a date with a vampire.
Yes, that was in that previous tavern session, I believe.
Yeah.
Which he said he didn't, but then we all agreed that he did without him.
Canonically, was like, yeah, you did. Here's a unique piece of stat from this campaign. How many times were the party infected with Darakul fever?
5.
Darakul fever can be contracted from Darakul bites. And we've seen where it can be pretty nasty. You guys are all over it. 435454. According to my notes, the correct answer was 4, including 2 in the finale. So up until the finale, we'd only had 2 infections.
Who had it in the finale?
Bahn
Davros.
Kovac, right?
Bahn and Davros had it, yeah.
Okay.
Davros got bit
I
at
got
one
it
point.
too.
Huh?
Davros
it
cured
too.
himself. So
Oh, you got it at the end?
Yeah.
Oh, I totally
You
missed
were
that
immune
then.
to
Shit.
it.
5. I'm changing it to 5.
I cured
I thought you were
myself.
immune.
No.
Oh yeah, you cured yourself. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what it was.
I
Okay.
remember. I think me and Alaric got it first, and then Bahn,
Yes.
and then I guess the 2 at
Yep.
the end.
Yes. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, I guess I'd forgotten about that then. I guess because you self-cured it. So 5, including 3 in the finale then. Which
crazy.
means you were the only one to ever get infected more than once. And the finale ones almost didn't matter because it was the finale, we were at the end, but it was the 2 we had earlier, which was Alaric and Kovac, where it's pretty nasty. Like you have to roll to cure yourself at the end of every long rest, I think, and if you don't make the save, you straight up lose max hit points. And if you ever have your max hit points go down to 0, you die, and then you have to roll in a d20 table, and that determines what kind of ghoul you turn into. And I think it's only if you're rolling like a 19 or 20 do you get to become a Darakul. Like it's pretty fucking rare, which ended up being the kind of the plot of what the bad guys are doing is apparently if they do this ritual, then they can end up getting Darakuls like 100% of the time or something.
That
remember we had
Darakul
a
fever
scroll
was
of-
the beginning.
We had
It
a
was the
scroll of
beginning
greater
of Alaric's
restoration,
shift.
and Alaric was like, "What if we need it for something important?"
Well, you're dying.
You do. Yeah.
The one thing is it never happened in the middle of a dungeon, I think. Like the times that it happened, I think you guys were like traveling. So you were on your way at least to a safe place in both those instances. But if you'd ever gotten it like in the middle of a dungeon area, that would have been pretty nasty.
Alaric got it right before the Ghost Knight General fight.
Okay.
Got it in the basement of that castle.
Yeah, because I think it's by I think it's only by long rest does it actually trigger. After this one, let's see, what time is it? Hour and a half. Let's go ahead and take a break here. I think we're doing pretty good time though, and we will finish. I mean, hell, we're halfway through chapter 5 right now. But why don't we go ahead and take a break, and then we will finish up our recap, and then we'll go through epilogue and all those moments and stuff. But let's take a 10-minute break right here. All right, we're coming back from our break here and talking more about the entire campaign of Empire of the Ghouls, which Brandon, you'd asked about when we started doing them more often, which was basically at the start of 2024. That was apparently around the time we started doing the necropolis of Sewall, so chapter 4.
Okay. Interesting.
It's also around the time that Morgan and Jason joined, somewhere around early-ish, like Q1 2024, I think. So after the, let's see, where were we? The Darrow cult. We had to do the cult of the Withered Hand next, which was, I mean, it's, you know, unfortunately, this was all you could see on the map. It's all very linear. It's all right, in the same area. So literally, you went from the pit over here, and then there's the cult of the Withered Hand right there to this area, which ended up being its own map, which was this one. This was a weird map for me. At first, I liked it when I saw it, and I'm like, this map is way too small to have like individual battles. Like, you look at it, you're like, well, why aren't they aggroing like the entire room? So I had to kind of put some dynamic lighting in here and kind of hide certain sections and just sort of fake it like it didn't make a lot of sense to where it was designed. Like, there's not a lot of space between areas here. And there's no doors. It's all just open. But this is where you had to, like, prove yourself to go see Narrowzane. There were, like, 3 magic items. It was almost like setting up, like, stations, like at a carnival, where you had to go do the different things. This is where Io turned into an elemental to grab a sword from the bottom of a lake. I think this is where Millie also showed off immunity to poison by grabbing another item from one of the areas. And then just various fights with all these like nasty Darrow stat block creatures. So kind of a mini, not really a dungeon, just a bunch of like violent challenges, I guess.
Wasn't there a creepy baby or something like that in here too?
That wasn't here. You're right.
People go insane.
Yeah, from one of the Darrow had like a baby on a stick in a cage, and the baby,
as you do,
it had basically the soul jar ability where it could like swap places with somebody, which was fucking messed up as hell. You could like get your soul shunted into like this messed up small baby creature. Or you could do what you did, which is snatch the stick and run into the fucking poison field and just kill it in the worst way possible. Or the poison pool. I was delightfully horrified at that. But the alternative would have been nasty. And I think I tried to use that soul jar ability on you once you stole it, and then you made the save. Which, it's a good thing you did, because that's pretty fucking nasty. There was also at one point you traveled, there was a bunch of insects everywhere, and you had to travel, or you had to battle a megapede thing. I don't remember what that was. That this one? Nope, that was the first one. Yeah, it's another battle map just filled with insects. There were like bugs everywhere, and you had to just kill those insects, and like you could hardly move and shit. And then you got to meet with Narrowzane, which was fun because I always like to have a cool, powerful undead creature to roleplay. And you finally get an NPC you can work for in here. Why did I get rid of my stuff in here? So you went down there, and then guess what? Narrowzane, there's no more travel. It's like right there. Like it's all hilariously linear with the map they chose here. And then Narrowzane, like any good RPG quest giver, is like, all right, I will help you, but first you got to go do a thing for me. And that thing is to retrieve his staff from the dragon graveyard area, which you had to go another 2 sessions, I think. And this was also its own map.
That was before probably my favorite actual NPC, which was the
one I forgot the recording
booth.
Yep. my great
Slathers.
A private toll booth NPC.
That's what I wrote down.
Too good for this world. Slathers, yep. I think you met him briefly on the way out, but yeah, on the way in, he was just like trying to warn people away from this area. And that was also kind of the dungeon crawl of this. This is all the same chapter. Kind of the dungeon crawl of this chapter, I guess, was the Dragon Graveyard section. Also, an interesting, tricky one to run. I'm going to turn off that dynamic lighting. Because it's small, but very labyrinthine. And there are hilarious traps everywhere, and it's all a kobold dungeon. Those of you that can metagame kobolds know that they fucking set traps everywhere. And there were traps, like all kinds of traps. This is one where Millie kept running off and setting that shit off. And there were ropers at one point, which I think Alaric dragged away with his nightmare steeds. There were giant lizard monsters you had to fight. But and then the undead, these guys were cool too. I'll put one of these on the map. This is the one, I think Rye like woke one of these up somehow. You like went up and triggered a fight.
Yeah, I hit it
One,
from
like,
distance.
breathes fire everywhere. Freaking undead.
And then I went to another plane to go chill out.
And everybody else paid the consequences.
Yeah.
The interesting twist here, you know, I didn't mind that it was a challenging dungeon to where you all had to like exit out and rest and then go back into it at one point, is that the boss actually can be talked down. Which you did. And I kind of teased the fact that like this dragon hates the ghouls. Like the ghouls went in and killed his whole family, and he's set up all his stuff and you know, defending his lair, which you guys do kind of invade. But then once you get to it, you're like, hey, we're gonna use all this to go kick some ghoul ass. So please help us. So I was ready. I was willing to fight with him. He obviously has a whole stat block. He's a dragon you can fight. But you can also just chat with him, and I like the way you guys chatted. And I felt satisfied with that you really fought your way through this dungeon. It wasn't like you know, kicked your ass through here and then did a social thing. And I'm like, oh, well, that was kind of a bummer. But instead, by the time you got here and did the social thing, I felt like, all right, I'm okay with you like winning the fight in a social way. And I think Millie first triggered the dragon. The dragon did take a few, like there was some combat still, because the dragon is missing some hit points now that I see him.
She was deaf and couldn't talk to him.
That's right. You got like deafened from a trap.
Yeah, one of the traps was like a giant bell dropped or something like that, and deafened her. So she took a couple swings at the dragon and ran away.
As you do. Yeah, that's
this
alerting.
Was fun to watch on YouTube, where I could see your map and I could see everything.
Yeah, I bet, because I have all the info, and from a player's perspective, how do you feel like going through a dungeon like this? Because it's got to be. And at one point, I think it was just literally a pain in the ass to like move tokens around too, because it's all none of it like quite aligns with the grid, right? It's all like little diagonal lines and shit. And I tried even doing like hit and run tactics with the kobolds. Like I would have them fight, and then I would kind of like end the combat, and the kobolds would like go away and go on the GM layer, and then they'd come back and fight, and then go away. And the Kobold Press does some nasty kobold stat blocks too, where they can throw like electric stunners and have all these like just insane Batman gadgets that they're using on everybody. They really punch up from their
I remember this one feeling very guerrilla warfare,
Mm-hmm.
which is like how they should be played, in my opinion.
I know. The fact that it's a kobold dungeon at level 10, I think, is pretty nuts. But that's how you do it, right? You have them lay down a ton of traps. You have like ropers and giant lizards and like all these other like stat blocks, and have them like know the territory in and out, have hit and run. So I was pretty impressed also with how this thing played out, honestly. And you all are way more strategic and know your shit more than my group on Friday. So usually you end up doing more success than what I'm used to. But I was like, oh, they're really finding a challenge here.
From a role-playing standpoint, Alaric didn't want to be here. It was, remember the intro is, he's lost his family. I identify with that. These are living things. I don't want to kill them.
Yeah.
Was
part of the,
did not enjoy this at all.
Yeah, that was part of the dialogue.
Alaric did not enjoy this part of it.
Yeah.
If they're ghouls, I'm fully prepared to put them down.
Yeah.
But these are living things, and
technically you're working for a ghoul to do this too, which is that was also an interesting thing. Which, unfortunately, the campaign does not have a good thing where if they don't want to work for Narrowzane, it's like then I have to come up with something completely different, because it doesn't. He's such a critically important NPC for giving information and letting you move on, but maybe you could still fight him after you bring the staff to him. But instead you bring the staff to him, and then the chapter's still not over. There's one more episode left, which is the one where he tells you to go steal the ship, which again is conveniently super fucking close. We just hardly see any, which now you know probably why I hid this map, if you recall. This was the giant map that I had everything on Fog of War, and then only put little pieces to show where you all were. Well, that's why, because this map is so huge and so cool, and you all would hardly see any of it. And I was like, I can't just do that. So instead, you go back to Narrowzane, and then he tells you to get on this ship at the docks right here. And that is when we do the docks fight, which Does that have a map? I don't remember. I think it does. Yeah, it does have a map. Sulfur Sea Docks. Which is this one. Where you had a little bit of a bar social encounter first. There was like a Shadowfey ambassador. There was a ghost you meet. Unfortunately, this map did not have a tavern map. And I thought ahead and thought, okay, well, if I'm going to have a scene where people are walking into a tavern, they're probably going to want to go into that tavern. So then I had to come up with a tavern map, which is where the fight actually started because there was a patrol that came in. And then that fight spilled out into this fight where you are fighting like the vampire spawn captain and everybody and this crew and then commandeer this ship. So this was a weird end to chapter 5 because you feel like the dragon was the whole big, that dungeon was like the climax, but technically this is the final episode. One thing I skipped though was the actual finale of this adventure. Once you take this ship, you start going off and then you're supposed to be chased by a bigger ship, a warship. And it's a whole chase sequence, like escape thing of the ship, like firing on you and everything. And it sounded cool, but I don't know. It just, I didn't care for it. By the
sounds
end
like
of
I'm glad you. Yeah, it sounds like I'm glad you skipped it. It might have been fun, but I liked how it turned out.
And pacing wise, it felt weird too, because it's like you weren't. I mean, I don't know. Like you fought this patrol and you defeated them and you got in the ship, and now to turn around and just have another like bigger warship out there, you're like, okay, fuck. And I wanted to go into the next like section of just going like, zone to zone in the sea and doing a little bit of a sea encounter thing. So I ended up just skipping that section. So that was the end of chapter 5, which brings us to the final chapter. We start at level 11. So you have to go to Vandakul, which is on the map. And then you got a side quest to go help that ghost, which actually is one of the encounters is like, hey, if they get really lost, they end up going to this encounter. But if they help the ghost, then they also go to this encounter. So I'm like, all right, well, I guess helping the ghost is kind of bad, but so I don't know. But it's a fun encounter, which is where you fought that big, scary, like demon thing that picked up Millie and did like terrible, terrible things. Because I like picked you up and moved you to a different spot. And that was all. So that was the start of chapter 6. It was all one episode. Was the Sulfur Sea encounters, which was that one. You met like some friendly ghouls who had like the bugs that you were handing out, and had a fun chat there. And then you learned more about Chandelier Island, which was this very big place on this map where you were basically given a heads up. They're like, oh, the Hunger Cult kind of hangs out here. Maybe we should check that out. Which was really the only, I guess, this one and the Bone Cathedral were like the two dungeon crawls, I guess, of this chapter. And this one, honestly, it felt like it was kind of finale material with the way it had the giant purple worm boss fight thing. This was the neat side entrance we used to climb up here. There's multiple entrances to this place. First Davros session, I believe. And then
those angels were no joke.
Yeah, that was on my trivia that I actually had skipped. And I think about it, I think was the closest we came to a player character dying, which was. Although now you reminded me, Alec, you rolled a 1 at one point on death save also, so I guess I'd forgotten about that one. But Millie, I remember I critted you while you were downed, which took you to 2 death saves, and that got real close because you had like ran up to the island and the angel came down and I think downed you with a crit, and then I had that angel keep attacking, so I'm like, these guys are not playing for keeps. And literally my next roll was another crit.
Yeah, that was awesome too. Like that was just a fun fight overall. It was just the best.
Yeah. I'm glad you were on board for that one because I start getting the nervous sweats about that. I was like, holy shit, we were getting real close to deadsies. That was session 35. I don't remember where. My one regret is that my maps are an absolute fucking mess. Shit, barge battle. Oh, that was okay, I know where that one is. I don't remember where the, because I think I had to come up with a map for that one as well. All the Sulphur Sea ones I had to do maps for because they weren't there. But the Chandelier Island interior is a dungeon crawl. Shrine of the Herald is what it's called. And this one, you only did some of the rooms. This one is just full. Every single room is a freaking battle. They really go overboard with that. This one had the weird vulture demons. And then you guys could go left or right on this map. I do love the map art, though. And you all went right and fought the bloated ghouls in this room, and then went up and met the mushroom guy. You could have gone left, or north, sorry, and fought a bone swarm, which is currently on the GM layer. I'll put them on the... which you never fought, which are pretty cool creatures. And then further north is another creature, even though they show up twice in this campaign, we never actually fought them. Which are these things. I forget what they're called, but they're... What are they called? Bone Collective. There were some others somewhere in the Pit of All Flesh where you didn't go in a certain building that had one, but those are really nasty too. I could have used those as reinforcements, but I think we had plenty of fights because you all ended up going into the main room, which this one felt like a, frankly, endgame boss fight with the, you know, the classic like villains summoning up an even more horrifying villain, which was in this case a jacked up purple worm stat block that appears. This was an amazing boss fight, had so many cool things. I got to banish a player, but there's a really fun thing where it says if a player gets banished, they go to the place that the boss is coming out of. So there was a neat thing, because normally you don't ever, I don't ever want to banish a player, it just takes them out of the fight and puts them in a limbo. Like, that's no fun. But what if I banish you and you end up like Beetlejuice, where you're like in the fucking like sand and there's the worms going everywhere, and you see like the portal in front of you with a giant worm coming through, and you're like, oh, okay, I can come up this end of it. So I thought that was a really neat opportunity. And of course, I got to eat Millie, which at this point, it was just started becoming a running joke that bad things are happening to Millie every single session. I think Bahn purposely got eaten by the worm in order to try to save her and teleport out of there, which was amazing. Yeah. Super heroism. This was just awesome. And then a bunch of just really... This was when Davros showed off like his crazy, like, some fucked up earth move where he was just down, which thankfully... I was actually thankful he had that, because this... I was sweating bullets at the beginning of this fight where I'm like, oh shit, people are getting like paralyzed from the ghouls, and some person's eaten, some person's banished. Like, you guys are donezo. And then he pulls off this move that like stuns everybody, and I'm like, okay, maybe we're back. We're so back. So that was a really cool big boss fight here, and that was just almost a side thing. Like, there's, I mean, you do get some good rewards, you get some nice treasures in here, but this was literally just like
after we almost died.
Yeah, exactly.
Opening those treasure chests.
Yeah, from the treasure chests. But it just ended up being like a consequence of like, okay, yeah, we thwarted. I don't know. I story-wise, I couldn't really tell what was going on here. Like, so I tried to tease the fact that, okay, maybe they're using part of the power of the Archduke to summon this thing, even though it ended up being just kind of a side thing that they're doing, but the Hunger Girls just doing their own thing. But the main ritual is still being done in the city, so it's like they're doing multiple rituals, I guess, to hedge their bets. But then we got to go to Vandacool and then finally do the, like, okay, we're in an undead city, and we get to kind of do a whole role-playing scene, which I had it... I actually had in my notes that this would take us 3 sessions, and it only took us 2. I don't know, maybe we just fought the fights really quick, or we got through the random encounters too quickly, or more quickly. This was also a situation where you had multiple leads, and you could talk to different groups. I think there was 1 or 2 people you ended up never going to, which is fine. But there were multiple opportunities for you to go to different places, and you got to all pick and choose kind of which ones you were going to and who you were going to meet with. At one point, you met with some ghouls and freed their slaves, and then they ended up like taking them back and helping them and talking to somebody else. So just kind of, this would have been an interesting one where you could really do things different ways and talk to different people. There was that whole Beggar King you could have actually gone to. I had a whole thing written down about where you can talk and ally with him, just to give you more opportunities for NPCs to work with.
That was going to be my question. I want to know if he was real or not.
Yeah, he was. It was a real NPC you could talk to, and it would have just had a way of talking to the beggar ghouls. For example, when you go into the tunnels, you could have just been like, hey, we met the Beggar King, we're good with him, and, you know, none of the beggar ghouls will fuck with you or something. So it kind of lets you do like a faction victory, I guess, in a way, if you can ally with him. And you had the 2 people to talk to here. You had the Marquess and the Marquis. And the Marquess ends up being, which is written in the book, completely not reliable, and she ends up being a fight. I still created a bigger battle for that, but that's the one where you guys really showed off your chops, and I was like, oh shit, like this was supposed to be kind of a big fight, and you guys just absolutely demolished her and like all of her minions and stuff pretty easily, which was the boat fight thing. Whereas the Marquis was a helpful ally to tell you where you need to go, which was the Bone Cathedral, where you had to... you got to meet with the vampire priestess first, and then get some information, the spiky steps, and then come out. And then I had the Emperor, like, you know, I had all these scripted encounters set up, and one of them is supposed to be, had you guys been captured and gone along willingly with the patrol, then you get thrown in the prison, and then that the fedora bone pipe smoking guy meets you guys in prison and basically gives you the rundown about working with the Emperor. Instead, you fought your way out of that street fight, and so I had you meet him just en route, because I still really wanted to use that character. That was just a prerogative of mine, instead of not meeting him at all, and ended up having this little social encounter where it kind of teases the fact that, like, hey, so it helps it not be quite a Deus Ex Machina. I think when the Emperor like shows up at the end to like end the fight basically and end, you know, any more danger, because you guys are in the middle of a literally hostile enemy faction so deep in enemy territory. That way you can tease the fact that the Emperor knows everything, what's going on, and is going to support your plan. I did change in the Bone Cathedral, which is our very final area. As written, when you guys pop up in the secret area, which I'll show you on the map, is oops, it might be on the token layer. Yeah, it is. So yeah, you pop up here. Well, you actually pop up here.
Yeah.
And I thought, this isn't working. This isn't going to work because there's the doors right here. They're going to miss the whole fucking middle area. So if you pop up here, then you can just go south through this door and you're basically at the final area. Like, that's not going to work. So I really agonized over how to do this. And finally I was like, you know what? They can pop up wherever the fuck I want them to. So I covered that map with this like fucking stone table thing and had you guys pop up here, because in this spot, now you got to deal with the middle room. And I thought I at least want them to have a cool big fight here in the middle with kind of a mini boss and a bunch of people, which I did enjoy how that fight played out. With several armed guards, and you had to fight your way in, while still representing the fact that there's not going to be any additional troops and everything, because you did the work with the Marquis. There were a few like random enemies in some of these side rooms, but there wasn't too much to interact with. I think Alaric had the right idea where it's like, let's go down to the bottom. Had you gone down the left side instead of the right side, instead of fighting the bloated ghouls and the armored ghouls, you have to fight this nasty stat block, which is a bone powder ghoul. It's a single creature, but it is a nasty like boss fight, where it basically does like crazy, horrible whirlwind stuff to you, as it's like a superpowered version of that sandstorm thing. He's pretty bad. And then I finally had the door locked and then had the key in the priest's office, because I was like, you know what, fuck it. They can't even make it that close. They have to go down here to the employees only section and have to interact with this purple worm thing. So I really kind of made you guys explore the dungeon a little bit further. I did have it in my notes where if the final battle was too easy, I would have these black puddings you guys saw earlier seep through the doors and attack you all. But I think once we had like 9 players show up, I was like, all right. I doubled all the enemies in the final room, and then we had plenty going on. So that takes us to the finale. That was 41 sessions.
Impressive.
Final trivia. And I'm going to make you guys answer this one pretty quickly, because if you think about it too much, then you'll be able to look it up. But how many total players did we have in this campaign?
Ooh,
look at this. I appreciate you asking real quick. Nice. 11, 14, 12, 13, 13, 11, and 11. These are all pretty close, which I expected them to be. And I do include Chris as a player, even though he played 2 player characters, he only counts as 1 player. Total players was 14. Congratulations, Morgan, on that one. You got it right. Who, I think here's the more interesting trivia question. I have written down, so I had written down everybody's attendance, but I think it's most interesting to write down, guess our top 5 in order of most attended, like who was there for the most sessions.
Oh man, that's hard.
Top 5 players who appeared in the most sessions. I can even tell you the numbers, but I'm just looking for the players. I feel like this one is, some of them are obvious and some of them may surprise us. I assume you're all writing them in the order you think. That's because I've got the order. Got Alaric, Bahn, Io, Millie, Rye. Alaric, Bahn, Io, Rye, Kovac. Alaric, Bahn, Io, Zabiri, Kovac. Alaric, Bahn, Io, everybody's Alaric at the top, Io, Rye, Zabiri. Alaric, Bahn, Rye, Io, Zabiri. Stan, Brandon, Dory, CT, and Jane. Wow, I think Brandon's got one of the most different ones. Brandon, Stan, Dory, Christopher, Corey. Okay. Let's see. I don't think anybody is exactly... That would be crazy if one of y'all was exactly right. But some of you are very, very close. What's more interesting? Should I go number 1 to 5 or 5 to 1? How do you mean to do it?
Do 5 to 1.
Okay.
Yeah, 5 to 1. I think we all got the top 3.
The 5th most played person at 22 sessions... surprised me, is Corey Corey as Lucian.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Hasn't played in the campaign, I think, in the last 2 chapters, but had so much attendance in the first 4. That one surprised me. Yeah, number 5.
Well, he was missed too.
Problem for sure.
Yeah.
Number 4 at 26.
I tried, guys. I tried.
I appreciate it. Number 4 at 26 sessions was Christopher as Rye. Which so far Torben's got it nailed down. Number 3 at 28 sessions, Dory as Io. Which again, it's very close. John, and
must be
yeah, it's the top 2. It's slightly different. Number 2 is Brandon as Bahn at 34, and you know him, you love him. Stan, most played at 35. I should have written the numbers down the other ones. So 35 for Stan, 34 for Brandon, 28 for Dory, 26 for CT, and 22 for Corey as our top 5 most played. You get the most attendance award.
All fun too.
Yeah, the Corey. When I saw that, I was like, "Holy crap, that's crazy."
Before we get into epilogues, I know it's getting late,
yeah,
and we probably need to do that. But what monster stat block were you excited about that we might have bypassed or skipped? So in Tomb of Annihilation,
yeah.
I'm playing through it twice. Both times they've missed the Beholder. Like both times they just totally stopped dealing with the Beholder, and I've been so disappointed. I wanted to run that fight.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if you had a similar circumstance.
Probably one of those in the last chapter too, that Bone Powder Ghoul that Bone Swarm or the Bone Collective, somebody with bone in the name.
Yeah,
it's probably one of that, because I think we nailed pretty much everybody else that I cared about. But I just feel like so much of what was bespoke and new to this campaign world that was added were all these very late game, different kind of undead creatures. Yes.
Did you feel the need to like move it along toward the end also? Is that like one of the conflicts you had?
in terms of like, oh, I need to wrap this campaign up because it's been going on forever, or
Yeah. As far as like not being able to find space for one of those stat blocks that you wanted to be able to use also.
I just feel like there was plenty here. Like I just didn't need to add anything more to it. I mean, except for that one Blood Vault section in chapter 2. Like honestly, there was so much.
Like whatever path we take is the path we take.
Yeah, basically. I mean, everything was so packed up there. I mean, we just did the whole recap, and I can't think of anything off the top of my head that I was like, oh, I decided to use this here instead. But yeah, I think we hit pretty much everything. And granted, some of it was a lot more linear than what I think a lot of us would have preferred. But I think we got the fact that I didn't have to change a whole lot from this campaign was a huge relief in terms of just story and the flow and everything. Compared to a big 5e, Wizards release, like I'm having to always change and tweak. I did not have to do that nearly as much here, which I was very impressed with. Probably the biggest pain in the ass for this campaign was the amount of travel required, which meant it was a lot of travel encounters, which meant it was a lot of me having to come up with maps and like putting all the tokens on there and doing all that kind of work for it. That part was a pain in the butt. Whereas I got to these kind of sections where it's like, all right, now we're in a dungeon crawl, and now we can just have fun with doing that, and I have to make all these little miniature maps with all the fucking individual gravestones on them. I was doing. Oh my goodness. All right, yeah, I think we have made it to the epilogue section, but when I do everybody's epilogue, that's what I'm going to ask you. Remember, I told you at the beginning of this session, have your different things and all your different favorites. Hopefully you've already got all those things, because I will make you talk about all of those by the time we or during your epilogue section. I don't have a order that we can do these in. Maybe we'll start. Let's see. Is everybody on the active party section? I think so. Let's just start with. Stan, are you there?
I am here. Just lost Wi-Fi. I had to get a cell phone.
Oh, dang. Would you like to go ahead and do your epilogue for your character, for Alaric?
Uh-oh.
Maybe we super lost him. Inauspicious timing. Maybe we have to skip him for a second. Why don't we do Brandon? Why don't we do Bahn's epilogue for now? I don't know what map to put you guys on, so I'm just gonna put you guys on the original map. Let's put you on the Midgard map.
Yeah. Do you want me to read my thing, or do you want me to talk about my stuff?
Go ahead and do your epilogue probably first, and then we can talk, or any order, I guess, whatever.
Yeah. So I wrote just a small, quick thing. I wasn't sure if I was going to make it. So Bahn, determined to gain power by any means necessary, was stepping forward to embrace his fate as the Darricool Grimtooth Rotbone. When he felt Io reach out, he knew Grimtooth Rotbone was never meant to be, but the political maneuverings of the Underworld were considerably more interesting and less morally taxing than in Midgard. On the way back to the surface, disappointment washed over Bahn as he grieved the death of Grimtooth Rotbone. He wouldn't have the freedom from scrutiny for a litter of servants to carry him around anymore, or from the social mores of Zobeck. He also wouldn't have the protection of his colleagues, Alaric, Io, and Rai. He wouldn't be able to boss around Lucian, Torben, or Snips or Davros, and he wouldn't have Zabiri to fawn over any longer. He knew he could travel back to Zobeck with Kovac as an escort, but then he remembered that he wouldn't have to deal with Millie anymore, and that thought cheered him up some more. He knew that they would have to move on to their own lives, their own failure and disappointment, their own triumphs and successes. However, as they reached the surface, despite his recoil from the bright sunlight, there was something in the fresh air. Bahn pulled the cowl from his golden silk robes over his head, and his grief is replaced by the excitement of his next opportunity. Does he continue adding to his commercial shipping fleet out of Huldremose, or return to Zobeck and usurp the Kobold King as Bahn Mi, Kobold Savior? Why not both?
Very, very nice. That was not brief, and I love you for it. I like that you managed to talk about every single other person, though. That was really cool. What about some favorites?
Yeah, so basically my favorite area was probably a Shadow River, getting Thorn whipped out and having that whole experience. I thought that was a lot of fun. That was probably also the Reaver Dwarf Cave where I got to do the Mantle of Whispers. That was a lot of fun. I talked about my favorite NPCs already. Favorite magic item, I'm not sure if I had a favorite magic item. Probably the Period of Wound Closure. It helped fix a lot of problems for me. But the one that I used the most that was given to me was the circlet of blasting.
I did find it more challenging with the magic items, having multiple players with rotating. It was hard to, I guess I needed to give out more magic items. Well, I guess I need to throw that out all to you if you all feel like you got enough in this campaign. I feel like it was a lower amount, but also I've been told I give out too many magic items in general. But also this was a unique situation where I have more players at any one time, so I technically need to give out more magic items. Even though it feels like it's more from my point of view, but from y'all's point of view, it's like we don't ever have all those magic items at once, technically. So that's an interesting balancing quirk of having multiple rotating party members. Okay. Let's do Dory with Io. I can share your note. Or do you want me to share it now, or do you want me to hold off?
Yeah, hang on just a second.
Okay.
So on the ride back, I was a little quieter than normal, little introspective. Some things kind of didn't appear to sit right with Io. And when we returned to, I believe, the Black Fortress, I quietly slipped a note to Bahn, Alaric, Lucian, and Rye. And the note says, if you want to put it up on the screen,
Sure.
you can. It says, my dearest friends, and the word friends is crossed out, and the word family is written next to it.
All right, can everybody see
I
this?
realized that in
Yes.
Okay, good.
I realized that in calling out Bahn and asking him to accept who he truly is, Bahn Mi of Zobeck, I was being a hypocrite. When I abandoned my life to live in the forest so long ago, I truly abandoned who I was. Io was born, and Summer Strauss was dead. And Bahn, when you're reading the letter with your knowledge of Zobeck, you would recognize the last name of Strauss. I wanted to escape all that our family name stood for, all the bad they had done, and continue the path to redemption my father had started for himself with Nico's help. My time with all of you has helped me remember how truly valuable living can be, and the sacrifices my father made to ensure I could live a full life will no longer go unappreciated. While I've lived nearly 200 years, much has been in isolation. It's time to change that. This experience has reaffirmed that there is so much more to each and every one of us. In the coming days, I may call in some favors, and I hope that you'll consider answering the call. And since you are now my only living family that I know of, I ask you one important thing. If something ever happens to this physical body, I ask that you take my essence, my gem, to the forest and find Nico. When it is time, I would like to be buried with my father. He lays at peace in a special place in the Margrave Forest instead of our family plot. It's only fitting I lay at peace there too.
Aww.
And when we do return, Io disappears for 6 months, almost a year. I return to the forest of Margrave. I find Nico to continue my training as a druid and to enlist his aid in exploring some of my newer healing powers that I've received. And then once I finally return, I call in my favor to Bahn. And rather than stir up all the emotions that surround my family name, I ask Bahn to help me reintegrate into society by developing a false identity and a history, one that will allow me to reestablish and also maintain my connection with humanity. While I am still and always will be a gearforged in my physical state now, only my closest companions, my family, still refer to me as Io. And then after that, I travel with Lucian and Alaric to the ghoul-infested areas of Krakova in the hopes of studying and curing Darkle fever for good.
That's great.
Damn. Too bad I'm not giving out inspiration anymore.
And some of my favorites, I would say my favorite chapter was definitely chapter 2. I think our time in Karasane, is that how you say it? I think that was important because I think that was Io's path to beginning her cleric powers when I was doing triage. And there was also a moment where I kind of lamented a little bit of losing my humanity when I was at the wall of all of the people that had been lost. And the other thing that happened in chapter 2, which was my single favorite moment, was when we were battling Sister Alcava and Alaric went down and I dropped form and healed him and told him that, yes, I am his sister and that she is not, and that he needed to get up and finish this. That was probably my favorite moment. Slathers was 100% my favorite NPC. Loved him. Absolutely loved him. And I mean, my favorite magic item, that shield that I got as a reward for helping those people, I thought that was kind of cool because it had a dark motif to it, which was totally opposite of everything that Io was.
Yeah.
And it was also super helpful because it was a +1 shield. So
also chapter 2 right there in that same section.
Yeah. So that's
I forgot another standout moment for me, and I'm sorry for taking it back over real quick. But the section that you made, like you custom made the dwarf test, basically.
Yeah.
And there was a section where we had to walk through the Neverending Story statues.
Yes.
And everybody had to say
tell
something.
Truth. Yeah.
Yeah, and Bond didn't tell a truth, and everybody like saw him get zapped. And it was one of the first times that everybody was like, "Oh wait, maybe we can't trust him." Okay, sorry.
Yeah, that didn't make a funny little. That was an excuse to make a little dungeon crawl. Because again, there was like so much just chatting and moving and stuff. Where I was like, I gotta have something in here. Let's do Genocider Kovac. Give me some epilogue and some favorites.
Yeah, Kovac and his family moved to Jost, and he'd been searching for the Rat King this whole time, but he realized with all the money and power he's gotten from adventuring that he could actually become the Rat King. So
he was the Rat
set
King
up
all
his family
along.
there, started up a longshoreman business, and settled down. And my favorite magic items, Kovac didn't have much, so I liked a lot of Rise stuff. He had some cool magic items like the gems, and then I think he had the blood mantle. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I feel like he used his items. Like,
he used them or gave them away.
Yeah. Favorite NPC besides Guy Manderson. There was a kobold in Zobeck. A really cool one who had like the leather jacket and hat, smoked cigarettes. He's the guy who worked for the Kobold King.
Yeah.
I liked him. And I like the
damn, I did 2 leather jacket smoking cool guys then. I gotta watch that. One at the very beginning, one at the very
end. You bookended them though. You bookended them, so it's okay.
A little bit. As long as I have enough of a gap between them, then nobody notices.
It's the same guy.
Admin lady that Bond talked to.
If this were a musical, it'd be the same actor straight up in the second half. What was your favorite chapter or area?
Oh, I think chapter 2 also was for me.
Okay.
I like the traveling. I thought you did a good job with it, I guess.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, 2 of you all say that, even though I was like, oh, it's such a pain in the butt. But it's good to know that it's.
Is that the one that Lucian and Torben joined? Is that chapter 2?
Well, Lucian was here pretty close to the beginning. I don't think he was in episode 1, but I think he was like episode 1 or 2. He was very beginning. And then
maybe it's chapter 1. Then.
I do think Torben joined around that time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like a couple episodes in. So yeah, it was after you did the fortress thing with the dwarves.
Yeah, it was right after the dwarf one when we first met the nobles. Is when which is session 6 is when John joined.
Okay, yeah, it's pretty early on.
Yeah, we had Quarry and CT both joined in the second session.
Okay, I think I like chapter 1 then.
Okay. The Zobeck chapter, it was pretty tight. Let's do Morgan as Millie. Your epilogue is probably going to be a little different from the rest, since I think you were the only one specifically to not leave the Underworld.
Yeah, so Millie said goodbye to everyone, and about a month and a half later, all of a sudden these I don't know, some ex-slaves come up from below the surface, and they have some random gold and a note from Millie, and they go to Zobeck, and they go and ask for Bahn and show gold to give to him, and the note says, "Dear Bahn, I hope my friends found you just fine. I've been having a lot of fun in the Underworld. I've been freeing people after I met up with that kobold that I met at the bar that one night. You know, the chef guy that made the Grimtooth
Rotbone's Revenge.
Revenge. And we decided to go over and meet up with the dragon, and we've been raising hell down here ever since. One day I'm going to defeat the Ghoul Empire and come back to the surface, and I hope that you'll take me up on that date. And tell Alaric and Io and Rai and everyone, the whole gang, that I said hi, and I'll write back to you again soon. Love, Millie."
I like it.
Yeah, and then just random times in the future, like random people will show up on the surface with money and letters to people that she. Yeah.
So you're the fucking like Underground Railroad / like just rebellion from in the Underworld.
Well, now she kind of met up with the dragon that they met down there, and like all three of them are now trying to form a resistance, I guess.
That's awesome.
Probably my favorite NPC is that chef. That chef from that bar.
Yeah.
I loved him.
Yeah.
He was perfect. Just a.
Was that you talking about the
favorite magic
the kobold that he was like cutting up people, and you were like, what the fuck's going on here? But he was like, I hate doing this, but this is how I stay alive. And
and Millie responded, we all have to do things we don't like to do sometimes. And so she met up with him, and favorite magic item was actually one that we didn't have. I really liked the creepy maces that like could suck in people or whatever. The ghoul maces towards the end.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I thought that's just a cool idea for a weapon.
Yeah.
And my favorite part of the campaign was that reverse gravity trap. That was so fun watching. As I was seeing everyone go through it, I could see everything on your page, and I was like, this is easy. Just, do it this way. It has to work. And yeah, I remember I was literally yelling at the screen to tell people what to do.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was just great.
Was that before you joined, or were you joined the campaign by then?
I was watching at that point, and it was just hilarious. I loved that episode so much.
That's awesome. I respect that your favorite moment was something that you had seen that happened, but yeah, I loved that sequence too. It was cool. It is funny, I bet, to see it from my perspective and then play as a player and then be like, oh no. Let's go with John as Torben. Give me your epilogue and your favorites.
Right. I definitely feel like I'm in the camp with Kovac of like just kind of keeping it short and brief. So Torben would have gone. I think he would have kind of lost interest in any more adventuring and would have gone looking for a small village to settle in. Probably somewhere where he could kind of, avoid anywhere that was kind of higher population of Darakul, even though they're maybe not the full-on bad guys, but he's not that interested in being. I think he definitely would have gone for the, I really kind of leaned in on how he took his wife's herbalism stuff and then his shift into Rune Knight with learning about those runes. So I think it would have been like looking for a village where he could be the healer, kind of run a shop as like an herbalist and use runes to help people in the community. Definitely would have not specifically sought out adventuring, but probably would have been amiable to some amount of adventuring if any of his prior companions came around looking for him and asking for help.
So somebody finally gets to retire and just live a happy life out of everybody.
Yeah.
Wait for somebody.
Let's see. For me, the section in the north, I enjoyed the most. I'm kind of a sucker for some of the Norse themes, and there was a lot of that kind of laid in there, and so I definitely enjoyed that quite a bit. Favorite item, that Grimsblade sword was really cool. I do, like, in hindsight, I really feel like I missed out on some of it because it was an action to do the fear, and like it hurt me to like, all right, like I need to get in there and help, and so I didn't use it as often as I should have because it was a full action, and I felt like I wanted action for other things. But it was a cool device and got to use it a couple times. So for me, favorite moment was when you gave me that one-on-one with the Spear Maiden. That was like never really done or seen anything like that before. And
in the town,
as
right?
DM now. What's that?
It was in the town, right? You were just like sparring, I think.
Yeah, it was the episode after like fighting with them as allies, and then we were at like their headquarters or whatever, and they sort of like they like challenged us in being worthy, and like being the big guy in the room, Torben just stepped forward, and but anyway, like that was super cool. I've never like I said, like never experienced anything like that in another game, and so as a DM I've used twice now, kind of tried to set a similar scene of like giving a player a one-on-one opportunity. And so, I really enjoyed that.
Nice. I think I've done that a couple times in my Friday games, setting up kind of those challenges, usually in kind of a friendly, like usually not in the middle of a dungeon, but like a town or as a skirmish or something. But then the players always seem to respond to that really well. And it kind of
it's a little bit of the cliche that like a lot of D&D combat mechanics aren't really made for one-on-one. So to like get the opportunity to like test your mettle and see how it goes is just kind of a fun diversion.
Yeah. You have a favorite NPC?
I don't. I like mulled that over a lot, and I feel like my spottiness in attending, I never really got. I don't feel like I ever built a solid attachment to any NPC.
It was a hard camp. Avgos was probably the best example, but it was a hard camp because you all traveled so much and saw so many places. there wasn't a lot of opportunities to even use recurring NPCs. So a lot of them were kind of the classic one-off, just memorable people who pop up like right then and there for that one session.
Yeah.
Let's go to CT as Rye for your epilogue and your favorites.
Rye's super simple. He kind of like breaks away from the group and just continues to wander the land, trading away magic items in the search for love, right? So super easy.
Does he find it? Does he find love?
Does he find love? Yeah.
We don't know. We don't know. We're not
fade
to that
to
point
black.
of
Yeah.
the epilogue.
Steps
To be
up
continued.
into the sunset.
It's like the end of some of these movies now, where it's like, oh, and it ends however you want it to end. I'm like, no, tell me how it ends. No, but like, I'm so sorry.
Don't like the ambiguous ending. I need the spinning top to either fall or stop spinning, like something.
Like challengers, watch the whole movie. I can't find out who won. Okay. I'm sorry. It's just like gripe I have with some of the recent movies. Favorite locations is kind of like hard for me because it was like how many times like something like epic happened or just like either epic successes or like wins or like failures from like the vortex warping of the captain, which was like a clutch situation that also ended up being like super hilarious, to Bon and I failing those as we're trying to parkour around the little thing. You described it as like a 5-foot thing, and it took us like 3 attempts to get us up there. I'm like, we're level whatever, we can't, like, are you serious? We can't get up there. So who knows what Snips' first impression of us, watching from up top, what we're down there like downing around trying to climb up a wall. Favorite item, for Rios, he carried his musket, which like would deafen Bon, because Bon would be like the little stand for his musket to go. But magic item wise, it would probably be the red gem elemental, the one that we used in that one fight, and then we end up at the end like having that thing just go chase. We mentioned it earlier in this stream, but I think that was probably my best item. And I was waiting. I didn't know how many more rounds that we would have, but I did throw it there at the end because you had given me another one. Shame on you. You had given me another one, so I was just gonna throw it out.
Well, hey, if all the summons go to one person, that's better for the DM because that means I'm only getting like one summon at a time at least.
Yeah. And then for the NPCs, I mean, I dated so many, so I'm trying to figure out like,
I like
was it one of
you started this campaign and that was not the characters. Like, you weren't playing like a heartthrob, like, I want to date everything character, but because of the story events, it organically grew from the story that this became your character's arc. I love that. And I ran with that because I was like, oh, fuck yeah, we're doing this. Like, this is absolutely recurring.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then I remember the one episode I broke down, I could not even talk or think about. It was so funny. I kept laughing. And then other than that, the NPC that didn't make the recording, so it's just for us, I guess.
Yep.
The toll booth guy.
Slathers one. Yep. He likes this.
That's it for
Stan, do we have you?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right.
5 by 5.
Let's do Alaric's epilogue and favorites.
Okay. When we return back to the Black Forest, Alaric is overjoyed to see that Katrin is still alive. And they're quickly married and end up having 2 children. Mina, which means resolute protection, and Zarek, which means free man. And with Torben and Lucian, they take that refugee camp up into the mountains and form their own village, trying to reclaim territory near a stream that's large enough for a ferry boat to dock at.
Yeah.
And it allows them free access over the world. And they have a nice, quiet village. And then periodically, they, starting at Vereshava, pay the Darakul and the vampires of Morgau visits, occasionally into the Underworld, where there's a stadium that didn't have a show when we were there last time, to cast Dawn and once again ruin a bunch of Darakul's days. So periodic, continuing the rebel resistance to free Krakova, bring pain to Morgau and to the Darakul Imperium.
So like
all
half
from
retirement, but then like on the weekends you start some shit up.
Oh yeah, oh absolutely.
Yeah.
It's get Lucian's able to bring his mom safely there to where it's Uncle Lucian and his mom, so she's a grandma.
Nice.
We got Uncle Torben. Occasionally, Auntie Io can stop by, teaching the kids, and so they're trying to free Krakovar with hit and run tactics, which is pretty successful when you can, as long as you're within eyeshot of a river or a lake where we can get that boat, we can hop in and out.
It's like some Dragonlance stuff with getting some generational things going.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what favorites?
Favorites. I will go favorite magic item, which leads to my favorite NPC. You gave me an Amulet of the Devout, which gave me an extra channel divinity and the bump up in the spell DC, which I really, really, really loved and used a lot.
Yeah.
Which led to gave me an extra holy symbol, which made that interaction with the Gravedigger possible. To where I could give him my old, my original holy symbol, give that to him, and encourage someone who was afraid. And I really enjoyed that moment.
Yeah.
Favorite part, it's hard to nail down because I was privileged. Alaric is based a little bit on my dad, who was a Vietnam vet who had undiagnosed, untreated PTSD. And so a lot of this was a story of my dad going through the combat PTSD. He never had the chance. He passed away before he got well. So being able to, I actually met with a counselor and says, what does a recovery from combat PTSD look like? And spent 45 minutes with a counselor, and they helped me do the role play for Alaric getting better. And so having that moment where getting to face the ghost knights that were the big trigger for his PTSD. And that first ghost knight, he was terrified and didn't do anything. He didn't think he could affect it. And then wait, we killed one. Now we've taken out the general. And through working with the female paladins, the spear maidens, that really started his recovery. And if you watch the episodes, I wore black every episode up until then. Then I started shifting to black and blue.
Oh wow!
And then for the last half of the series, I wore nothing but blue.
Wow!
And that was the shift of telegraphing Alaric's mental state in each episode.
I found the whole character very compelling, and it worked fantastically. The whole character design and everything in your backstory worked just amazingly relevant to so much of the story, and the fact that you stuck to it and had this like internal struggle, I just loved the hell out of it. And that's why I was able to play off of that even up to the very final session too.
Well, you told us at the beginning, you and I had a conversation about, okay, trying to get into this world. I don't like Brandon. I don't know anything about Midgard.
Yeah.
And said, well, I go, this Krakova, that sounds like Poland. You said you can read up on it and you can base a character from there. And that's what I did. I just read about the war from 10 years ago, nothing current. And that's where all my knowledge came from, was 10, 15 minutes of study about Krakova, and this is what we're going to do. And looking at what gaps do we have? And that's how I ended up playing a cleric, a dex-based cleric, because I knew we only had one rogue and we were rotating. So I needed someone that could do rogue stuff and was also a cleric.
There were so many sessions where you were part of the front line, basically.
Alaric was built to be a utility player.
Yeah.
So
what do they call five tool player in baseball? Yeah.
That's what he was built to do.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I love the Gravedigger. Like Io said, the conflict with Alaric's sister and the Ghost Knights. That whole section was just absolutely incredible for me.
Yeah. Nice. Do you have a favorite NPC? Or did you mention that was the
Gravedigger? Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Cool. And I think that's everybody, correct? Everybody got to do final epilogue. Before we wrap this up, do we want any other final thoughts about this campaign? You all are an amazing group of players. I think we'd only played like 2 sessions together before we even started this campaign, and part of the motivation was because I thought doing one-shots every time was really challenging, and the campaign allowed me to at least have a like stopping point when it's like, all right, hey, it's been 3 hours, we're gonna stop here, and then we can just keep continuing this campaign. So I like the campaign from that point of view. The fact that it was only 40 or 41 or whatever 41 sessions is fine, but because we didn't play as often, it took us over 2 years to play. For that reason, I probably won't do another full-length linear campaign like this, but I think I'm going to try to look into something as a compromise, maybe one of those anthologies or something that's a connected story, but maybe has more like individual modules. Now, this one does have the chapters that kind of have a beginning, middle, and end as well, but I still think those maybe modules would be a little bit easier to run, but I still enjoyed the hell of this campaign. I also this is my first, not my first Kobold Press, I think I'd done some smaller modules, but for their first big campaign, it was my first one of theirs, and I was really impressed with the stuff they'd put together, the material. Like I said, there was a lot less things I had to add or change to this campaign. The story was fine. I don't think it was like crazy compelling, but I also understand that it's really hard to like design a story for a, open role-playing game that people can make their own choices and things. It was a little linear. It had a lot of exploration. It toured around like all of Midgard as kind of just a big sampler, and we didn't really get to the cool like Underworld stuff until those final 2 chapters. I also want to give a huge special thanks to both Morgan and Jason for joining for like the back third of the campaign. You all were like in almost every session for the back bit, and there were times where if you hadn't joined, the 2 of you, then we would be sweating bullets on maybe trying to fill some of those slots at the end. So thank you so much for coming in and joining this and making our group even more wonderful. So that's my spiel, but if any of you want to, you don't have to be sappy about it, but you can just give me like feedback about the campaign in general and stuff.
I'll start. It was an honor to play with all of you. First of all, it was fantastic. A great opportunity that I didn't think the first couple times if I knew how I was going to end up with it. But yeah, I really appreciate that. As far as the campaign in general, Eric, you did great. I think what you added to it was enough that it felt like we had an opportunity to flex our legs a little bit. There was some linear aspects that I think character development would be cool, but at the same time, when we're in 3-hour time slots once a month, it's hard to do, right? Like it's kind of asking you to squeeze blood from a stone.
That was
right?
that was probably my biggest regret, and the biggest challenge was like, can I do, like, I feel like I did a good job with Alaric, but like everybody else and a lot of people, like either you joined pretty late in the campaign, or we're not in the right area, or something isn't clicking where I can try to do something with your character specifically. I know that Io talked about the Margaret Forest. I was like, gosh, it's right there in Zobeck. I could do something cool. But then like we're immediately leaving that area and then like never to return ever again. I'm like, fuck. So yeah, that was probably my biggest regret, was not using enough character things. But it does get tricky when you have multiples and you're rotating in, because then you have to like time it right. Like I have to, at one point I think I talked to Stan and was like, hey, you need to fucking be here for this one finale fight for the Blood Vault, or else I'm not fucking running this because this is a specific thing I want to do.
I think you said it's like, dude, you need to be here for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah,
the next 3 weeks. Yes,
which is a tricky thing to tell. Yeah, the people. So that was something I struggled with for sure. I'm glad you brought that up, Brandon.
But I also felt like all of the players did a great job of making space for their character. I think everybody did an awesome, everybody made it memorable. It was a blast. I'm honored to have played with you guys.
Ditto that.
Mm-hmm.
It was,
I think
30 months of fun.
Yeah.
Gosh.
I think your rotation method is great. Even to the fact of I'm not juggling nearly as many players, but in my games now, I just do the thing if someone's absent, their character is in the background. It's not like I used to work so hard to come up with a little story tidbit of they went off over here to do something else for a while, and now I don't even do that anymore. And that's pretty much I've drawn that inspiration from the way you run this.
Kind of out of necessity. Yeah. Most of the time it was fine. The only really awkward times, the one most awkward time was probably when Jason joined, because he joined at the end of the one dungeon where I was like, fuck, this is so awkward to have a new player show up deep down in the very bowels of this. I mean, he's an amazing player and I'm so glad he joined. But just joining that one session, I was like trying to work. And finally I was like, all right, well, you went through that shortcut and you just end up here and you fall in, whatever. We just jump into it from there. So there are times where it's better, or, when Amit joined as Snips, it was like a much better, like, oh man, I've got this perfect setup here. So it was just whoever we were in the adventure was how well we could have them join. In terms of having people rotate, yeah, it had to be just which I think you all did a pretty good job of mentioning people in the background often enough. I mean, I picture playing a video game RPG where you can swap party members, Final Fantasy X or whatever. That's an old example, but there's a lot of games where your party is all in cutscenes, they'll all be there. But in battle, there's only the 4 people there. That's kind of what I'm picturing here. So it does get tricky when you're doing a stealth section. And there's only really these 4 people here, but other people. But whatever. I think we just make it work, and yeah, I think it ended up just working in the end out of necessity. But that was an experiment because this was the first time I'd done something like that, where it's hey, we're gonna do this player cap, and we're gonna have a rotation set up for players who can make it, which I'm glad I stuck to my guns for 5-player max, because I certainly wouldn't want to do more than that normally, finale notwithstanding. And I think it worked out where I was privileged that we had almost 5 players every single session, which was really cool, because that's something else I wasn't sure of when we started, I guess back before we did this campaign, but how many players we're going to have, so that was cool.
No, this was a privilege for me because I've never, prior to this, I was the forever DM. So this is the first campaign I've got to play all the way through. So, so this was a big deal for me. And then Dory and Corey as Io and Lucian, playing off of Alaric, and Lucian being his conscience and role model, so to speak. And then Io of being a real sister to him, and being there to support. I think that was an amazing group. And then Bahn trying to corrupt him was always fun. So it was, we had some fun with that. And then Rye learning very on to stay at least 6 feet away from Alaric. So we had that. Those were some fun synergies, fun role play moments to bounce off of each other with.
I remember, I think Brandon, you came to me and you're like, I kind of want to play this evil, selfish character, if that's okay. And I was like, well, I think I'm getting to know you, that I think you can make that work, but I'm glad you came to me about this, because it's normally a red flag.
So it started with the quirks, actually. Like when I picked my 5 quirks, and I was like, "How do I integrate these quirks correctly?" And I was like, "This is the only way I can think to do it." And so, yeah. Anyway, that was I never wanted to surprise anybody, and you know, I felt bad.
5 words, 1 quirk. See, this is where you messed it all up. You picked 5 quirks.
Asshole. I don't know. I felt comfortable doing it. You guys gave me the space to do it, and I felt guilty after every session and like a terrible person.
No, you made it work. It was amazing, though. I think you did a good job also of not being like a method about it. Like you always stood back and you're like, man, fucking Bahn is gonna do this. Like, so I think that's the self-aware that kind of relationship with the player character has to have. It's important to separate the player from the player character, and I feel like a lot of players, maybe it's a maturity level or something, don't fully do that, and so they take it more personally and more defensive about anything that happens to their player. Whereas if you're able to step back and just kind of laugh about it or be like, oh man, I can't believe this is had like this character I'm playing, like, man, aren't they such a jackass? And you're in on it, so I feel like you're in on the whole thing. That's what really makes it work. And you stuck to your fucking guns throughout. And I also can't believe Bahn survived this whole campaign. That's crazy. If I would have bet that you would have died at some point, I mean,
9 Constitution.
I was not trying to like play it. Like nobody had the plot armor. Like I was coming at you guys and survived against all odds.
It was from a lot of help from you guys. A lot of people.
You all were much more effective than my Friday gang. I will say that. You all know your D&D in and out. Obviously, I think pretty much all of you are DMs. Like, yeah, you guys were giving me a run for my money, which thankfully, on the other hand, Kobold Press's creatures are like a whole nother notch harder than D&D's creatures, as you've seen. So, arms race. Anything else about Empire of the Ghouls? I think we're done. I think we're finally done. That's going to end this wrap it up. This final finale of Empire of the Ghouls. Thank you, Brandon, Christopher Dory, Genocider John, Morgan, Stan. Thank you to all the players. And thank you to all the patrons for making these sessions happen. Shouts to Platinum patrons: Joe, Will, Thomas, Stan, Brennan, Zenithstar, Eclectic, Roleplayer, Christopher, Corey, Big Nut, John F, John L, Nathan, Chris, Cantor, Andrew, Stephanie, Jason, Lumpy Spuds, Warden, Harold, LLC, They're Eating the Dogs, Caleb, Marcus, Snuggy, Hugo, Mirrodin, Nikos, and Ruby. And gold patrons: RPG, Papercrafts, Pretty Boy, and Yuma, Desert Lounge, Jerome, Nathan Fasca, Torres, Scott Rivas, Jerry, Glenn, and Mark. We will see you with whatever our next campaign is, but it won't be this one.
Thanks, everybody.
It was awesome.
See you next time.
Bye.
No, Alaric's good now. It's only Battle of the Weekends.